Greetings, everyone. And welcome to an incredibly strange episode of Monster Party.
Monster Party.
Monster Party. Hey. Woo, woo. Ha-ha. Insert crazy noise here. Hi, guys.
Hey.
Oh, it's so lovely to see you all again. Guess what?
What?
I'm Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
And boy, do we have a great show, don't we?
We do.
Yeah, this is a...
Ripped from the
Yeah, go ahead. Keep going. I want to hear...
front page.
Is it?
What?
Of what? Your diary?
Oh, if only my diary could talk.
I would do anything to see that diary. I really would. There's a movie.
You don't
There's
wanna,
a miniseries.
You don't want to see that diary, but I know what you want to see and you want to hear. You want to hear what our new topic is.
Our new topic
It's
is...
not really a new topic, is it?
Thank you, Larry. Let's make this even more convoluted. Our topic is one that we're returning to.
Yes.
Yes, it's one that we did kind of in the
Ages
infancy
ago.
of our podcast, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A while ago.
And
Without
now,
a guest.
without a guest.
Right.
Yes.
Without pants.
Without
No, I was wearing pants.
I had balls back then. Those have since gone away.
What is this mysterious topic?
This topic is Incredibly Strange Titles Volume 2.
Incredibly Strange Titles, number 2. Volume 2.
They're crazy, they're weird,
And
they're unusual.
When we did this, it was just the four of us, and
Just
we were
the
on a
four of
roll.
us.
We were like whipping out these
What
titles.
happened to those days?
A lot of
Genre
titles.
of films, horror, sci-fi, fantasy movies with just titles that really kind of stick out.
They
But
stick
get
out,
bizarre,
they're
get your
strange, they
attention.
grab your attention.
And you ask yourself, what were the producers thinking with this particular title? I mean, what was the selling point with this title?
Or when you're a kid and you're reading TV Guide and you're looking at the different movies, looking for the horror films, but you see this other one called Dr. Strangelove? What's that all about?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
about strange love.
Right, yeah, I think, sometimes are very misleading sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are movies that were retitled to a really weird title,
Yeah.
just kind of like
Usually
grab
they're
you.
better than the original title.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel.
Yeah, and sometimes they're better than the movies.
Well, that's for sure.
And speaking of misleading, when we did this last time, again, like I said, we did it without a guest, but this time,
This time.
we're going all out here.
Yes, we are. Oh, my God. We're inviting back friend of the show, podcast royalty. if I may
Podcast
say so.
legend.
Oh, man, this guy's a writer, a comedian, one of the creators of the Comedy Film Nerds podcast.
Comedy Film Nerds
One of the creators of
podcast.
Podfest.
Podfest.
Right.
And he's here. He's here. He's our friend. We love him. It's Chris Mancini.
Chris Mancini!
Welcome.
Guys, yeah. I always love getting podcast intros because then I feel like, oh yeah, I have done some stuff.
Yes, you
Yeah,
have.
and I'm like, oh yeah, all right,
No,
okay.
You're a force
Yeah.
in the biz.
Yeah, now I can. Now I don't have to go home and scream into a pillow.
No. I do your podcast and I go like, oh, so that's how you're supposed to do it.
No, but
okay.
you did the whole podcast thing. And I mean, Podfest. I mean, people came to you.
They
say,
did.
How do I do this? And some people.
I did.
Some people. I was going to say some people succeed and others don't. Yeah.
we're kind of in the middle.
No. On the contrary, sir, we are on fire.
Well, we are on fire.
Podfest is like the Comic-Con of podcasts.
It is. Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yes,
right.
it
You
is.
go there and it's like everybody
Yep.
who's anybody in podcasting is there.
Yeah, it was, and then we sunsetted it last year, but
really?
it was a good 5 to 6 years for sure.
It was
good.
great.
Yeah,
It really
was really
was.
fun.
So we're happy that you're here because not only are you a podcaster, hilarious comedian, writer, but you also have a vast knowledge of film, just like us. You
Yes.
love movies.
As soon as I saw that topic, I'm like, all right, well, I got to start writing some stuff.
Now, let me ask you, how many did you just know right off the top of your head. Now, we gave you a list.
I did.
From the first episode.
Yeah,
Right.
to
Yes.
show you like, hey, try to, kind of veer away from these.
And I will say, you covered a fair amount.
We did.
in that,
We did
in
all
that-
right.
in that
But
first
we
episode.
looked at that list and we kind of even felt like, we could do this better.
Well, I thought we were drinking when quite a lot.
Just always.
But I do want to
I always
let
blame
our
Matt.
listeners know this. If you're not familiar with the last time that we did this, which was years ago, I might say, we kind of got in this role. What we're supposed to do is, we're supposed to have rules here where you say a title and tell us what it's about. But some people here just kind of got in a role, started to throw out titles without going into what the film was about.
Well, I came up with 10, and I figured as I looked at the title, I'm like, all right, well, there's 5 people. 10, that'll still be 50.
Yes.
Each person
Oh,
does
yeah.
so let's
Yes.
stop at 10.
Good amount.
And then, although I did stretch the rules a little bit, where I have some of them that sound not as crazy in the title, but the movies themselves are insane.
I was
That's
wrestling
good.
with that too, where the title seems mundane, but considering what the movie is, it makes it interesting
Right.
because you never would think that a movie like this would be associated with this, benign title.
And for me, I really thought I shot my load on the last one.
I really
this
can't
one,
have you say "shot your load"
There's
ever
always
again,
more
Larry.
weird movies.
Yeah,
for sure.
so you're-
Let me. I thought I spilled all my beans.
Oh, don't say spilled either. You spilled your seed all over
I
the.
chucked my guts.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's kind of better, I guess. But
And,
all right.
and so look, I know. Look, my titles are maybe I won't have as many as some people here at this table, but the key here is that they're all incredibly strange.
Yeah, and it takes a village. Together, we will
right.
get there.
Right.
Takes a village of the damned.
Of the Dam. Great title. Great
But
title.
It doesn't really fall into this category, but a great movie.
What do you mean? How come? Why doesn't that fit in the title?
Wait, are you starting? Is that one of yours?
That was a warm-up.
That's a warm up.
Yeah, there you go.
But what's wrong with Village of the Damned? Is a great title.
It is a great title. I didn't
Because
think of it
it's
as strange
Well,
title. Weird.
I think it's kind of strange.
Yeah, it has strange.
Village of the Damned. So
Well,
you're like village.
and
Oh,
you don't
we're
know
going to
what-
a nice little village
Yeah.
of the Damned.
And you don't know what it means. Like, it
yeah.
doesn't,
Are they in hell?
right.
Is a village in hell? Because then it
there
wouldn't be
demons?
a village of the damned. It would just be a village. Because if it's in hell, everyone's damned.
Well,
Right.
if you remember, there was a film called The Village.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
That was damned.
that was
There was
And
also,
we're off.
There was also a film called Voyage of the Damned, which if you were expecting anything like Village of the Damned, you'd be very
That's
disappointed.
true. That's true.
Voyage of the Damned. Which one was that one? Was that the one with?
It was in the 70s and it had an all-star cast, but it wasn't genre. It had more to do with
World War II, right?
World War II.
Yeah. An unfortunate era in our
Yes.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of a tragic drama.
Yes. All right, great. Well, let's have fun, everybody.
Thanks for bringing us down there, James.
Yeah.
Off to the races.
Speaking of the Holocaust,
So, Chris, why don't you start off here? Why don't you give us one of your incredibly strange titles?
All right, and this one I found strange because it's a little vague as to what it's about.
Okay.
The Trouble with Dick.
Oh.
I don't know this. The Trouble with
Trouble
Dick?
with Harry, but
The
not
Trouble
trouble.
with Dick.
What's the
with
date on this?
Dick.
The 80s. That's all I remember.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Does this have to do with erectile dysfunction?
You would think that perhaps.
You would think maybe.
But what it is about a science fiction writer who is trying to finish his next book, and he gets distracted by all the beautiful women in the place that he's staying. Again, a lot of it doesn't really get explained as to why he's there. But then it flashes to the actual science fiction story that he's writing about an astronaut trapped on this planet with like weird worm things chasing him. And then it's this weird sci-fi comedy, romantic, sex rompy thing that makes zero sense, but it's mesmerizing and it's weird. It's weird, and I
understand that.
Yeah, and I defy you to try to find it. I literally had to find like an old VHS copy of it.
Never heard of this one.
Yeah, it's really hard to find, but it's like it's an insane.
Was it one of yours? Like, did you like go in the attic and
No,
find your
I like.
VHS?
This is when Amazon used to like find things for you, like old books or
Okay.
VHS
Right.
tapes, and then they don't really do that as much anymore.
Right.
But that's how I found it, and it was like an old. It was like an old VHS vendor, and I was like, I've always wanted to see this movie because I heard about it and I saw ads, and then I finally grabbed it and I saw it, and then I lent it to someone and never saw it again.
Oh, Matt, you see, I don't want to be that friend. Yeah. No, he's loaned me some stuff.
And it's also it's
I
this
have
weird
perfect
guy.
trust in you.
It stars this guy that was in all those '80s movies that I could never. It's like, oh, that guy, but I could never remember his name.
Tom Villard. Also, Susan Day is in it.
Susan Day?
Yes.
From the Partridge Family?
And Jack
And Ellie
Carter?
Law?
Yes,
Yeah.
Carter.
I've never heard of this. one.
I've never heard of this one.
it's insane. And
Okay,
it's,
okay. So let me ask you something, because one of the films that I picked out, it was only on VHS. It hasn't been released on DVD. So
Right.
is the film like, well, it's not great, or is it somewhat interesting, or
It's definitely somewhat interesting, especially where it's definitely a product of its time too. Like, oh, this could have only been made in the 80s. There's no other time this could have been made. But it's also the kind of movie where you watch and you're like, oh, I can't believe this got made. And I'm glad it did, because I'm watching it and I'm enjoying it on many different levels right now.
Right.
Ironically and unironically at the same time.
Right.
and it was theatrical release.
It was theatrical, yeah.
Wow, I've never heard of this one. But that is a
Me neither.
strange title.
It is a very strange title because it's
Trouble
it
with
plays on the
Dick.
trouble with
The
Dick.
Trouble with
because
Dick.
it's the sex antics, but the writer's name was Dick, and he was like being yelled at all the time, and then the actual character in the science fiction story would like yell at him to finish the story. There's
wow.
all this craziness that's going on in this movie.
Interesting.
Little kind of a Grant Morrison weird.
All sorts of weird in this,
That's cool.
Weird that gets abandoned, and weird that like gets it follows through on, and it's there had to be a fair amount of drug taking when this movie was being made.
Right.
And when I watch it,
Yes. It's worth the journey to try to find it for sure.
okay,
Cool.
All
So
right,
it's
like
John,
84.
you have your
Around
mission.
there,
Yes,
What
yes.
was the year?
1986. it
86.
says.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
All right, Sean,
All
what
right.
do you got?
All right. So this is one that this is the kind of a title that just it sticks out to you when you see it on a VHS shelf. This is an 80s film, also kind of a staple of 80s horror video stores, and it was a film 1988 called Hack-O-Lantern.
Lantern.
That's good.
Oh my gosh! No, I haven't heard this
It's
one.
a pretty crazy gonzo 80s horror film. These satanic killings going on in this small town. There's this crazed grandfather played by the character actor Hy Pike, Hy and Pyke. I think he was a comedian too at the time. He's probably best known for playing the kind of sleazy bar nightclub owner in Blade Runner. He's the guy that Deckard goes up and asks about, hey, do you know where the do you make these scales and the replicant snakes? And he says, no, go away. And that guy.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah.
I cosplay him.
Yeah. So Hy Pike is in, and he's
Won an
this.
award.
Wait a minute! Wow, you're High Pike.
Yeah.
And he plays this grandfather who's like the head of a satanic cult. And to say that he overacts and chooses scenery is an understatement. And the movie's got lots of TNA and lots of crazy, gory killings. There's this guy who's kind of under the power of this grandfather character, and this guy imagines himself in sequences where he's like in a satanic rock and roll band. He's on stage playing rock and roll and getting decapitated, and
God.
it's nuts. But the cover of the VHS tape in the days were. It was like this chick with a guitar holding up a guy's severed head, so it got your attention. And we call it Hack-O-Lantern. And it's a pretty fun, crazy movie. And this is an example, too, where it's a movie that was retitled, because I think the shooting title was Halloween Night, which is not a very memorable title, So, but if you call it Hack-O-Lantern,
Yeah.
of course. it's
Wait a
gonna get your
Wow.
attention.
And you have a severed head on the cover.
Yeah,
Boom.
yeah.
Yeah, that's like saving the picture.
Right, exactly, right.
Yeah.
And it is-
Hack-O-Lantern.
Just by the title alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why?
Right.
It's like, why didn't I think of that?
Exactly.
It's one of those titles.
Yeah, so
Hack-O-Lantern.
it's fun. It's a fun, crazy, ridiculous horror 80s film. So check it out.
Oh, well, speaking of crazy 80s film.
All right.
And also a title of a film that was changed. This is
Right.
from 1988. I think of it as a strange title, and you guys may be, whatever. Think of Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Sure.
Now,
great title.
now, the funny thing about this is my understanding was the film was originally just called Killer Clowns. But this was a film that was created by the Kyoto brothers. They wrote it, directed, and produced it. And these are guys who specialize in doing all kinds of effects. And they want to do their own kind of big effects film, like with ridiculous effects. But the title of Killer Clowns, it made the film sound like it was a slasher film,
Right.
like Hack-A-Lantern, you know? And so they figured, let's add the in outer space. And it kind of gives into how ridiculous the concept is. So basically,
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
you have these alien beings that from outer space that come down to Earth to,
Look like clowns.
they look like...
That's what I like about that they're actual alien creatures that happen to look like clowns.
So this is like, if you think
Yeah.
of Bozo the Clown, Ronald McDonald, or whatever, for listeners, if you haven't seen this,
Way
it's like,
scarier than these clowns.
yeah, oh, really. I mean, it's like they have the hair and the bubble red nose,
they're
or
beautiful.
but it's like they have the sharp, nasty teeth, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Every weapon is like cotton candy based.
Yeah,
or
right,
like, you know,
right.
circus based. I remember that.
That's what's interesting about that movie too, because when you watch it, you think, are our clowns? Did they visit our culture? Years before
Yeah.
us, and they created the whole idea of clowns in
It's
our
like-
culture.
It's like 5 million years to Earth and Satan.
Yes, right, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah.
now the
at
weird.
least my fan fiction.
The weird thing is, I do
postulated
remember
this.
when this film came out, I was actually against it because
He was against
yes,
it.
I'm against color clown.
no,
The one
okay.
guy with a sign.
It's not like I boycotted.
Picketing.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't.
Get out of
no.
my theater,
You know,
clown.
If I could just, if I could just set the record straight here. No, look. When I was a kid, I loved watching Bozo and Hocus Pocus. Hocus Pocus was a clown. I want to say in our neighborhood, but no, it was in our.
What, he's like Pennywise?
No, see, come on, guys, come on, bear with me. Back in the
Only
this is like
related to
the
you.
60s and the 70s, many local TV stations had like.
Invited clowns over for dinner.
No, well, okay, Chris, maybe you give me a chance to speak.
All right. Go
So what they
ahead.
would do is local TV stations would have their own little kids show, and they would have like a clown as the host.
Yes,
And
I know how clowns have been used.
Okay, so Bozo the Clown is like the big one that everyone remembers.
Right.
But in Northern California, I'm surprised, Matt, you don't remember this. There was Hocus Pocus, and Hocus Pocus was a
I didn't do
lovely
clowns back then.
clown.
Yeah, I never was into clowns.
No,
Never.
Well, he was a lovely clown, and he was a friendly clown, and I was on his show. I was in his show.
Really?
I did. Yes.
That show was held in his
explains a
basement
No, it was at a TV station.
when your parents weren't around.
No, I still.
Did you call him a clown?
Yeah.
Well, no. Is
that where this comes from,
You
the
call
whole
him
clown thing?
No, because you call him Hocus Pocus.
Oh, okay.
See,
Mr. Hocus Pocus? Or
No, it's just
Mr. Pocus, I guess.
No, it was just hey, it's Hocus
Pocus.
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 And he did little balloon tricks and made little
Yeah.
balloon animals.
okay,
and-
yeah,
and
sounds
they're-
great.
Okay, you're an adult man here. Okay, I mean, as
No,
a
I know,
kid,
I
it's
know,
like,
yeah.
wow, he just put a balloon in his mouth and out came like like
You're
a
making
little
it sound worse.
It does. It's right. It sounds horrifying.
Chris, the point I'm trying to make.
I don't know.
No,
what it is.
is that
Go.
I liked clowns, okay, and then Ronald McDonald came in,
Sure,
you
and
know,
ruined
and
everything.
He
let
did.
me ask you, Larry, because like today's jaded
Yes.
world. I mean, do you think little kids now like clowns? Like
No.
it's changed, right?
No,
I mean,
I think the world.
They
has
love
changed.
evil clowns.
No,
They love
yeah,
Pennywise.
Because my daughter, she was actually never really a fan of clowns to begin with. Okay,
Right.
But she loved the whole. This is like within the past few years, you know, the whole spooky clown thing and
Right.
the whole Pennywise. I mean, she loves it. She has actual figures of Pennywise.
I think
But
that's why that movie did so well too. Is like the tweens around that
Yeah.
age,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
as they
yeah.
were responding to creepy clowns. I think they really resonated with that.
Yeah,
movie.
that whole
The
Stranger Things and,
absolutely,
like-
yeah.
But what I
Now, how
want.
old's your
Perfect
daughter?
timing.
My daughter's 14.
Now, so that's perfect age. She must have
Exactly.
loved.
She
Yeah,
loves
yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
what I was going to say is, like in the 80s, I was against killer clowns from outer space. But now I have, I can appreciate the film for what it is.
Yeah, it is.
But
a good
were you
movie.
against it before you saw it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so
Because
the
killer
concept
clown,
of it.
Yeah, because it's like.
clowns shouldn't kill?
No, yes. Well, it's the same thing. We've talked about this about
I really want to understand this.
Okay, Silent
In all
Night, Deadly Night.
seriousness.
It's like, hey, the killer
Sure,
Santa
sure,
Claus.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, how dare you take this
Oh,
wonderful
okay.
character of Santa Claus and you're messing him all, making him
Sure.
into like a horrible killer. But it's like the same thing with the clowns. But
So wait a minute. So
I
how
think-
long
I think-
after you had this feeling about the movie did you then see it?
it was like 15, 20 years.
15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
But
But it has changed because, the famous Emmett Kelly. He was like a famous clown back.
Yeah,
in
the
like,
sad clown, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he was like for
Ringling
decades
Brothers
and
and-
decades.
yeah.
He made a career of that. And
Oh, yeah.
and it was a famous thing. And like, I mean,
We got a
circuses
figure
and
of him
clowns.
somewhere in
Well,
this house.
you guys have to understand too that before there was even motion pictures, there.
Right,
People,
right.
I mean, there were clowns, that
In
were there to
circuses.
in circuses to entertain kids.
Jesters, I guess,
Yeah,
would
yeah,
be
yeah. But I
early
mean,
clowns.
and that tradition carried on, for a long, long time.
Right.
And now we've kind of created the creepy clown, within the past 20 years or so.
Yeah, that's become much more prevalent.
But
thing.
getting back to what I want to say about Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the funny thing is, the film is still fun, and there's lots of practical effects.
Oh, wonderful practical.
All practical effects. My understanding, which I did a little research, I guess the Kyoto Brothers, they're trying to work with sci-fi to try to do either a TV show or a made-for-TV movie, but it's like it's still in
Maybe.
development hell, I
Yeah.
guess.
I mean, it's
like-
still kind of their best project, I think.
If
those
they
guys.
greenlit the Banana Splits horror movie, they should greenlit.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
See, another thing there, just wreck. I'm also
Well, that was that was the if it ain't broke kind of a situation with the banana splits.
the Banana Splits was awesome. I
Yeah,
love the
but
Banana
I can
Splits.
see-
Clowns,
Yeah.
clowns always had a weird, creepy element to them anyway. They
Right,
just
right.
lend themselves so well to being either a maniac or a
there's-
creature from another planet.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a good one.
There's actually a really good movie called Clown. This guy finds a clown costume in this attic, this cursed clown costume.
Yes.
Puts it on and can't get it off.
Yeah, it's the mask, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
the mask and
That's
everything.
cool.
But he's got a whole costume too.
Yeah.
And he puts this thing on, he can't get it off, and then on top of that, the costume makes him want to eat children.
Oh my god!
And he does. Ooh. It's good. It's a lot of fun, that movie. Yeah.
What year was that? The clown.
It wasn't too long ago.
2014.
Yeah.
2004.
Oh, okay.
Really? It was
It's not
that
that-
recent?
So-
Wow.
Okay.
So again, and maybe we should say that for our clowns episode.
Clowns episode.
But so-
Really, of all topics.
But
And
anyway,
we can invite all the people you've called a clown.
no, I don't think we have enough space in the room.
Right. We'll rent a hall.
Okay, so there's another incredibly strange
good.
title,
That's
Killer
good.
Clowns from Outer Space.
I love it.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, in keeping with the cannibalism element,
Yay!
Microwave Massacre from 1983, which is
I don't. What? Microwave
you
Massacre?
don't remember Microwave Massacre?
No, is this from '83?
83.
Well, I was, graduating from high school
I
then.
know, but that was back when we were renting a bunch of horror DVDs that
Right.
or
Have you actually seen this one?
VHSs.
Right.
I saw it back in the day.
I know of this one, but I don't think I've ever seen it.
Well, it's
Do they use a microwave?
Oh yes. Well, the most remarkable thing about it for me is that the star, who is a man who his character bludgeons his wife to death, and then decides to try to do away with her body by eating it. He's played by Jackie Vernon, who did the voice of Frosty the Snowman.
Sure, yeah.
no.
He was a comedian back in the day of the Borscht Belt comics.
Right.
I can't watch this. Having Frosty eat somebody?
Well, he's not Frosty in the movie.
What? Who are you? This is a horror podcast.
So-
Well, what does he sound like? Does he
he sounds like Jackie Vernon.
He still sounds like a little like
So
Frosty.
where
'cause
did the
it's his
microwave
voice.
come into that?
Yeah. How does that work?
Yeah,
You
come
can't
into
just
play
like
there.
run at someone with a microwave.
Yeah.
Well, no. He kills his wife first, and then tries to he cuts up the body and then disposes of the body parts by cooking it.
But it's not. So it's not really a.
So he puts each piece in the microwave?
Pretty much, from what I remember.
Wow, it's
It's
like
got to be a
3
long
hours.
movie. Yeah. It's always cold in the middle too.
No, but then right. From what I recall, he likes the taste, so then he
Yeah.
does it
Oh,
repeatedly.
Does he
This is
vent
a-
them? Does he?
I
Does he
don't
got to
re-
vent them?
I'm not recommending this movie, but it is one of those like driller killer, like the Abel
Right.
Ferrara movie.
But
which
is it
that-
more comedy though too? It's kind of
It's tongue-in-cheek. It's tongue-in-cheek.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
can I ask a goofy question? This
sure
was
hope
not, was
so.
this a theatrical or was it just straight to video?
I don't think it ever made it to theaters, but it was one of
You
those.
know why? Because it was Frosty the Snowman. And then I could see the
In
I could see
addition to myriad other reasons.
I can see the distributors. What? Frosty the Snowman? Nah, I can't see that.
Yeah, I'm
nah,
sure
I'm
that
not gonna
happened.
distribute that.
Listen. All right, you got Jackie Vernon, who's gonna bring the kids in. But then what else do you got? Everybody's still convection oven.
I got it. New technology. Microwave. That's all the kids are using the
Oh, the
microwave.
I will say this.
Kids can't get off their microwaves.
I will say this. We joke here about the microwave, but if this is '83, the microwave had only been around for what? It was like late '70s when it came out.
Well, yeah,
Right, so it was relatively new.
thing.
Yeah, it's a new technology.
Do you remember the first time you ever saw a microwave?
Oh, it was like total science
like
fiction.
magic, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how does it cook that hot dog? It's like magic. It's-
My neighbor had one, and I went into his kitchen, and I saw him take some tater tots, put them in the microwave, and they came out like 10 seconds later, piping hot, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Are we in the future?
Yeah. Is this a cartoon?
Yeah.
Now, if listeners remember, we had a big discussion about tater tots a few shows back, if you recall.
That was our tater tots episode.
Yeah, well.
Who
yeah.
doesn't like tater tots?
It's true.
Well, Shawn Sheridan, I guess.
You don't like tater tots?
I love tater tots. What do you think I don't like them?
Why do you think that he didn't like tater tots? I forget.
No, he actually poked fun at like, oh, anyone can cook tater tots.
Oh, well, that's true.
No, not anyone can cook tater tots.
Now, I don't remember him saying everyone can cook them properly or well, but anyone can cook them.
It was like in reference, we were talking about Hooters and how they made these great tater tot dishes, and he's all,
So here-
he eats at fine
Chris,
restaurants.
I gotta catch you
Give
up
me,
a little
give me the
bit here.
backstory
Yeah.
on the tater tot
Yeah.
discussion.
So Larry loves Hooters.
Okay.
He loves.
I love the
but
tater tots.
He loves. Get
It's a
this.
special dish.
He loves the food at Hooters. And so one of the things they do is they do tater tots.
Which is not their prime directive.
No, it's going against everything that they believe.
But it has this chili and cheese.
Chili and
it's-
cheese.
It's so healthy for
No
you.
one has ever been able to replicate this
Comfort
recipe.
food. It's good comfort
Secret
food.
recipe.
It makes me happy.
It's great, but it's not like you can do that in a second in your home. You know that everything is cooked in a microwave at Hooters.
I don't know. I mean, tater tots microwaved a little soggy. That's not optimal.
I think
Not
it's a
optimal.
science to it.
Oven is better.
Well, I agree. I'm just saying. So the ones that are at Hooters are crispy.
Yes.
They're just
That's
fantastic.
how it
Sure.
should be.
You're sure?
Yes.
You know, I know this is great, but just getting back to James's microwave
If
discussion.
All right,
I can piggyback, because there's another title which is would be a great double
Ooh, two
feature. with
titles.
this. It's a cult film that came out a year before called Eating Raoul, which is
I remember.
It's a great movie.
Now that I remember.
Paul Bartel and Mary Warrenoff.
Oh, both of those guys.
I don't remember.
great
Was
film.
there a supporting role for the microwave in that?
Was a
movie? I don't
microwave
remember. Was
used?
there a
I
microwave?
don't recall
used?
if a microwave.
Yeah, I don't
was used.
remember.
But I do recall that they ate Raoul. And
Yeah.
And you want to let the,
And
audience, the
Bartel
listeners know.
directed it too, right?
he directed
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
What was it-
Roden directed it? Or?
I think so.
What was it
Yeah.
about?
Yes.
The concept?
It was about an hour and a half. No,
Oh.
the concept was about a
Save it.
couple. It was similar to Microwave Massacre. I don't quite remember the plot.
Yes, they're
If you
trying
wish-
to get like a way to fund for opening their restaurant.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. It's fun.
Yeah, and both those guys are in Rock and Roll High School. So,
That's true.
all right, here you go. This one is a French softcore fantasy film from director Charles Matten, and it's called Spermula.
Whoa, that is a strange title.
Who doesn't want to go see Spermula?
And is that the translated title? I wonder what the original French title means.
Yeah, Le Spermula.
Yes.
I don't know what I'm doing.
What is Spermula
So Spermula
about?
From what I could tell, because I couldn't find like the entire movie, but I did see a good chunk of it on YouTube. And Udo Kier is in it. Of course.
No.
Udo Kier is great and everything.
From 2001.
No. From like Andy Warhol's Dracula or yeah.
I'm sorry.
Suspiria.
You're thinking of
Suspiria,
Keir Dullea.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
Kier Dullea.
I gotta,
booze.
I gotta
Why
stop.
are those two
different.
different?
Man, I gotta stop drinking.
Udo Kier is
man.
the guy who's the creepy guy and everything.
That's right.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
You can't get Klaus
yes,
Kinski.
Yes, you get. No, I
right.
remember.
Yes. So
Demon booze.
Get me the cheaper Klaus Kinski.
he answers on the first ring.
yes.
But so these are women who are alien vampires, and so instead of blood, they live off of sperm.
Ew.
Yeah, and when they take sperm from people, they call it spermulizing men. Yeah.
So that's the word for it, huh?
Yeah. There's a lot of orgies, and
Is it kind of done seriously?
well, here's the thing. It's
French.
actually it's French. It is surprisingly well shot.
Okay. Okay.
It actually is really well shot, and it's kind of beautiful. And even the erotic sex scenes are, it's nothing
like
it's not
softcore.
it's not hardcore or anything like
Right.
that. But it's kind of done well. They're pretty sexy. and it reminds me, just style-wise, of the opening of Misty Beethoven, classic X film from the time of like Porn Chic.
A soft focus.
Yeah, everything has sort of an arty flair. It was Radley Metzger who did this under the name of Henry Paris. That film is shot really well and has kind of an art film feel to it. And this one feels like a very similar type of film. But I would love to see the whole thing. From what I saw, I mean, there's...
Well, you got to find out how it ends.
Yeah, no, I want to know.
Here's how it ends. Van Helsing. Van Helsing shows up with spermicidal foam. Or a condom, and then it's over.
Now, did you just make that up?
Yes, I did.
It should end that way.
Well,
maybe there's a sequel.
I don't want the listeners to go, I'm going to check out Spermula, and then...
To see that ending and then be
ruined it.
disappointed.
Yeah.
there's...
Oh, okay.
Well, he's not going to do a spoiler. It's not like he's going to
have to
red
say-
wedding this thing.
I'll just keep my mouth shut.
Oh, ouch. Spermula.
Spermula.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Top that one, Chris.
Well, that's, I did the trouble with Dick, so that's as close as I can get.
Right.
I hope we're not going to go down this rabbit hole here.
Oh, yeah, we are.
I'm going to pick one that's actually a classic film.
Okay.
By Ingmar Bergman.
Ooh.
Through a Glass Darkly,
Oh, okay.
There you go.
which is a really odd, weird title. It tells you nothing about what the film is about.
Okay.
And it is part of Ingmar Bergman's Faith trilogy, where
Okay.
it had it was Seventh Seal, Through a Glass Darkly, and then there was a third one that I can't remember.
Is it Persona?
It might have been Persona. Yeah. And Through a Glass Darkly is a really interesting film that is a very, very slow build. And where it's building, you have no idea that it's coming. A woman comes back from an insane asylum. Again, Through a Glass Darkly. Nothing to do with any of this. She comes back from an insane asylum, and she's coming back with her family, and she's trying to get better, and then she's not getting better, and then she realizes that at some point she's afraid she's going to see God. But what she realizes is that God is a giant spider. And that's actually what the movie is about, and that's the entire movie.
That sounds creepy. I've never seen this.
Yeah, it's one of those weird, like, that Ingmar Bergman straddles that line of like, this is a really intense drama, but it's so off-putting in parts that it borders on a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Well,
especially
Seventh Seal does that.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
towards the end.
And
Yeah.
and Seventh Seal also kind of flirts with comedy in there too.
Yes.
So, does this one have comedic moments?
This
or-
one has nothing light.
Is that
about
right?
it. Yeah,
Okay.
this one's a really dark, heavier film. It's like Winter Light, where it's pretty much about a church, faith, and nuclear annihilation. Where that's literally, oh my God, can I even watch this for an hour and a half?
Boy,
Yeah.
wow.
Like Hour of the Wolf. Is
Yeah,
another one
yeah,
that's
yeah.
like
Yeah,
really-
that's a great one.
Yeah, and when this Through the Glass Darkly has your typical Bergman cast too: Harriet Anderson, Max von Sydow.
Yep.
Yeah, but yeah,
From
that sounds
Night Court?
good. Yeah, Harriet.
Oh, Harry. Oh, so, I'm sorry. I was about to say he can do anything.
But to be fair, Max von Sydow probably was in an episode of Night Court.
Yeah, he's in everything.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, buddy.
Nice one, Chris. That's a nice one. You know what's funny about this?
Bring a little class to the show.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. I with this I
film
show
school.
Yeah, makes
Yeah.
me feel like
Mr.
I'm
Film School over
Yeah,
here.
I'm getting educated here,
Yeah, me too. Okay.
Mr. Spermula over there.
Spoonula? That'd be the other in the trilogy. Spoonula. They're tired of all the blatant sex. They just want to spoon now.
Oh,
Spoonula. I like
Yeah,
that.
I can watch that. I can watch that.
Yeah, that you could go
That
with,
would
yeah.
be nice.
Okay.
Sean.
all right. This is
Don't
one.
fuck this up.
This is a really good film by Lucio Fulci. This is not one of his like later gore fest films like Zombie or
Okay.
The Beyond. This is one
Okay.
that
No,
was made.
no gore.
No, there's gore.
Oh,
I know
okay.
there's some quite some shocking gore and violence, but a very different kind of movie. This is from 1972 called "Don't Torture a Duckling."
Don't torture a
Very
duckling.
very
And you
strange
shouldn't,
title.
really.
No, you shouldn't.
No.
It's kind of a
Cautionary tale.
Are there ducks?
It's kind of an instructional film
Yeah.
of what to do in the park.
right. Basically, it's a giallo. It's a giallo thriller murder mystery. But unlike most giallos that take place like in urban settings with, fashionable jet setter characters. This one takes place in a small traditional Italian town, which is rocked by a series of horrific child murders.
Ooh.
And there's a investigator of the police, and there's a journalist who are investigating this to see who's committing these murders. And it's a very powerful film, very well made. There's lots of red herrings.
Is it more of a drama than a horror film?
In some ways, but it is kind of like a giallo in that it's just like a crime murder mystery from Italy. But there's definitely horrific elements to it. Mm-hmm. There's this kind of strange gypsy witch character who is doing these rituals with like wax dolls, and she's put under suspicion. There's this other...
Imagine that.
Yeah. But there's also this like...
I'm innocent.
But there's also this super hot visiting woman who...
of course.
From the big,
Italy.
from the big city who is also under suspicion. And it's
Is
just...
the gypsy witch hot?
Yeah, she is too, actually.
Ooh.
It's
Wow.
an Italian film from
So
the
everybody's
70s.
hot,
Like,
right?
all
Yeah.
the women are hot, yeah.
Okay.
But it's really well done. It's probably one of Fulci's first films where he actually started to feature gory effects in it, and not like fantasy effects, but like violence
Right.
effects, and does not shy away from the killings of these young boys in the town.
Oh, wow.
It's all very based around religion and the church. Really, really good.
This sounds good.
Yeah,
I've never seen this.
It's very well made. It's kind of like now it's become like pretty well known. It's admired as one of his best films, and it's really
I
good.
will check this out immediately.
But being Fulci, I mean, it has some scenes that are pretty graphic, like only,
we want
only,
that.
Yeah, only in a Fulci film, like there's a character who falls down a cliff. But he doesn't just fall down the cliff. He scrapes his face against the side or the rock several times as he's falling down.
But that's what happens.
Right, exactly.
Real
The way I do it.
Yeah.
Right. But
I do the Homer Simpson.
It's kind of like that, yeah. But it's really good. The title, this was at the time when Argento's Bird with the Crystal Plumage came out in 70. So,
Another great title, by the way.
Yeah. Well, so many giallos at the time had those animal-related titles in them, so I think that's where they drew this title from. There is like a tenuous connection to the title of why they're calling it "Don't Torture a Duckling," but it's really good. Definitely worth checking out. You might not know what that's the kind of title that you listen to, like what the hell is that? But
They don't actually torture a duckling. though.
no, there's no.
Is there a duckling?
Kind of, not really. But there's
Kind of, not really. So it's a swan?
There's a duckling effigy or a duckling toy
Spoiler.
in it. Yeah. So
if I recall, I think Sean has brought this up before, and I think I wrote a note saying this is something I got to see. But I always thought there was a very strange and unusual title.
yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
I really want to see that. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
There's a wicker duckling that they...
The Wicker Duckling. If only they'd make that movie. That poor duckling,
Yeah.
the ugly duckling, thinks he's going to be a swan and then just ends up in a big wicker duck.
Yeah.
Well, Sean did an Italian film. I'm going to do a British film.
Okay.
And
Get you.
The weird.
International tonight.
Well, the weird thing is, I remember seeing this. This was a long time ago. I think it might have been a creature feature thing, Matt. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I thought it was a Hammer film. It is not. But I did think that the title was very strange and unusual. From 1972, The Asphyx.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Is it the Asphyx or is it the
Asphyx.
I think it's the
I can't even pronounce the freaking title right.
You're uncomfortable saying anything that sounds kind of like ass, right?
Yes,
The
that's a good movie.
The
Yes,
good
Asphyx.
Well, it's funny because it's from 1972.
That's a good movie.
And it's for listeners, I don't even know if this is on Blu-ray or
Yes.
DVD.
Is it?
Is it? Okay, it must
He
have been
knows.
recent. Of course he knows. Of course he knows.
I have it.
Do you have
It's
it?
a-
Yes.
On
because-
Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No, but man,
Yes.
I haven't seen. I thought the last time I saw this was back in the 70s, though. But I thought that the title was always very weird, unique. When you hear that,
What is that?
what is it?
What
Is
is
it you're like a boil on your butt or something? Like what is it? But actually, it's very, very deep.
Yeah.
For listeners, imagine this takes place in like Victorian times,
Right, right.
like early, like late 19th century. Okay, and these guys, quite by accident, when someone's about to die, they take these photos and they catch these photographs of what appears to be something, some kind of image or something. Either is it leaving the person? Is it there? And basically, what they've come to the conclusion is So when a person dies, the soul is going to leave you, but there's this other entity or this thing that is supposed to take
The spirit of the dead.
The spirit of the dead. And what they do is they're able to figure out a way how to trap this thing.
Yeah.
But, and they do an experiment with a little guinea pig, and hey, then the guinea, they trap you with the guinea pig, and the guinea pig's their little buddy kind of a thing.
And so it's all life.
Yes,
Right.
all life. But there's this tragic accident when they're trying to do an experiment that involves a guillotine, which I won't go into details about, but it's really kind of cool because...
Does that ever happen where the words guillotine and accident combine?
Because it's an experiment.
Yeah.
What they do is to frighten someone into, oh my gosh, this thing's going to happen, and the essence is going to come to take it, but they stop it at the last moment. But damn that stupid hamster or guinea pig who's gnawing something that he shouldn't be gnawing, which just totally wreaks havoc. It's a neat film. It deals with morality.
It's a great. There's a great bracketing scenes to the movie
from the very
There's
beginning.
A really horrific idea, which you don't want to give away.
No,
Was it like a 70s movie? When?
Yeah,
72.
But it's very well acted.
It's very elegant.
Yeah.
It's smart.
Robert Powell is in it.
Yeah,
Who's great and everything.
What I didn't realize because I was trying to remember, gosh, what's the title of this film? Because this was something that I saw a long time ago. I didn't realize that the director, when you look at it, it's done really well.
There's good music.
The director was actually a camera guy on Bridge from River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, which I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so he had,
That's not surprising.
But
it looks beautiful.
As a director, he definitely has his camera chops, and
it's actually the only film he had directed.
Yeah.
Everything else he was a camera. He was a DP.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I thought this was a
good one.
really neat film. Again, I thought it was a Hammer film. It is not. But the Asphyx. The title, I would never have used that title because it's so obscure. It's so, what is it? I don't know how well the film did. I would have done something different, like To Cheat Death or the Evil Hamster or something,
Now, that makes me wonder, because there are certain films that will use a name that only comes from the film.
Yeah.
Right.
And sometimes that can be intriguing.
Yes.
So, and not to take my turn out of turn, but to throw one out there, a modern day one, like the Babadook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
The Babadook, that's one of those words, names that make you intrigued. It just sounds spooky.
And then when it says its own name, it's even creepier.
Yeah, and then you add the rhyme.
Yeah.
It also sounds like something from a child. It sounds like, is that a Babadook? Is that like a
But
children's
you could also see it as like a 70s Disney movie, The Babadook.
Babadook and Monte Carlo.
Yes.
But anyway, the Asphyx.
The Apple Dumpling Gang.
Asphyx. The Asphyx from 72. Strange
That's a
and
good one.
unusual
I
title.
like that.
I like that one too.
I like that too.
Take that, Chris.
I actually want to see that movie now. I want to see it. I'm writing that one down.
Look at that.
It's Asphyx.
Excellent.
James?
Okay, I'm going to quickly, if you'll bear with me, roll a roulette wheel of a studio that has straight-to-video movies and is the current king of blatant exploitation ripoffs.
Okay.
The studio is called the Asylum.
Of course.
Oh, yeah. These are the mockbusters.
Yes,
What are they
right.
called?
The mockbusters,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like Transmorphors.
Right.
Or
Or Atlantic Rim.
Yes.
which I saw. I've seen that.
The porn version.
Snakes
Yeah.
on a Train.
Are you serious?
Invasion of the Pod People.
Nazi Overlord.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
30,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Wow, that's even deeper.
Titanic 2. Which we've
Whoa, are you
before.
serious?
Electric Boogaloo.
Tomb Invader.
Okay.
No
All right.
way.
That's great.
Alien Predator.
Alien Predator.
Wow.
Was Womb Invader theirs?
Womb Invader. No. That was a porno. Tomb Invader. Pet Graveyard.
Pet Graveyard. Okay, good.
Wow, that's hilarious.
These are wonderful. Keep going.
Ghost Hunters.
Ghost Hunters. Okay.
This is
Jurassic School.
Great.
Jurassic School.
Triassic World.
Oh.
And And
3 times the fun as Jurassic Park.
Nazis at the center of the earth. I don't know what that means.
Oh, that's great.
They
Got
have
something
one
for
called-
everybody there.
And of course, there were their monster ones, which were classic Mega Shark versus Giant Octopus,
Right.
all that.
Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus, Mega Shark versus Mecha Shark,
Wow.
Ooh.
Two-Headed Shark Attack 3, 5, and 6. They skipped over 4. Planet of the Sharks and its sequel, Empire of the Sharks. But the one I'm going to stop at
Okay. Please don't.
is simply called Monster, and it's from 2008. And the reason
Charlize Theron? Wow. They kind of went off their
Yeah.
game plan there.
Cloverfield was coming out. So
Okay.
Monster was their answer to Cloverfield. So I'm like, all right, well, this could be interesting because it supposedly takes place in Tokyo. And there's a couple of news reporters that go to Tokyo to cover the sort of seismic activity that's releasing this giant, that it inevitably releases this giant monster. So I see that they've got this footage and these locations that, and it's all handheld. Extremely cheap, and these locations that sort of look like it could be in Japan. And then I see they're in front of a storefront, a restaurant that has the letter B on the window. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's a restaurant rating. They only have like here in
Was it
LA.
like Little Tokyo downtown or
Yeah.
something?
Exactly. The entire thing was shot in Little Tokyo.
Wow.
And they tried to pass it off as
That's
Tokyo.
hilarious.
And a B rating, too.
That is hilarious.
I'm by far from recommending this thing unless you are just curious about the audacity.
I'm a little.
Yeah, it's
Now,
the audacity.
James,
audacity.
Well, if you're curious about the ratings at the
Yeah.
restaurant.
No, but James,
Yeah.
weren't a lot of these? They were cheaply made quickly to throw on Sci-Fi Channel.
Exactly.
Right, right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And just
They're made for a
rent.
shoestring.
Right,
And
right.
the Sharknado franchise really probably carried the entire studio.
Right.
And they're
Right,
still
right.
doing them. I mean,
Yeah.
Are they really?
Well,
Oh,
this
yeah.
year they have The Adventures of Aladdin, timed for the Disney release.
Yeah, that's what they do. They time it all for like the big.
Right.
Yeah. Did they make one called the O-Sphinx?
If they were around back then.
The half-ass fix.
Also, a movie called Monster Island to time with the new Godzilla movie, which I have.
No.
These are so off the radar,
That's
but it's
so funny.
fascinating.
Yeah,
That was
it
on
is.
TV, though, wasn't it?
I think so.
Monster
yeah.
Island?
Yeah.
There's probably
I guess
maybe a couple movies maybe called that. Then. That's okay.
So
that's
anyway,
good.
Monster.
I love it.
Cool.
Thanks, James.
Thank you, James.
Oh, you're welcome.
What I have for you is a 1966 film directed by T.L.P. Swicegood, which, if that's not a pseudonym, it should be. And the film is called The Undertaker and His Pals.
That was on my list.
Oh my God, that's great.
The Undertaker and his
The
pals.
Undertaker and His Pals.
Is it a kids movie?
That's what I.
No.
It's funny because that's what I would think. It's like, hey, here's
Say
the
pals.
Undertaker. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You throw pals in there and it has a kind of a bring the whole family kind
Yeah,
of feel.
sure.
But no, don't do that at all. This feels and looks kind of like a Herschel Gordon Lewis film.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Kind of a
there's-
parody, kind of.
yeah, it's kind of comedic. It's very comedic, really. And there's a lot of really graphic deaths.
But like really cheap looking
yeah,
gore.
cheap looking, gory, graphic deaths. And let me just read you the tagline because it'll explain a little bit about it. A macabre story of two motorcycle-riding, knife-wielding, shiv-shaving, eye-gouging, arm-twisting, chain-lashing, scalpel-flashing, acid-throwing, gun-shooting, bone-breaking, pathological nuts, and their pal, the Undertaker.
Wow, that does say it all for sure.
And then there's even a theme song that goes like, did you ever think when the hearse rolls by that someday you are going to die? Wow. Yeah, it's got everything. But yeah, it's this Undertaker and his friends, and they're restaurant owners. And so to get meat, they go out of town, and they're motorcycle riders. They got a helmet
Right.
and leathers on. And
Shades
they-
of Sweeney Todd in here?
yeah. Oh, yeah. No, there's a lot of like
Right.
putting arms into grinders and
Okay.
there's a lot of that kind of thing. And then, you know, the detectives that are on their tail. But I don't know. I have to say, this particular film, I enjoyed it maybe a little bit more than some of the Herschel Gordon Lewis
yeah,
ones.
it's a little. Well,
It's a
yeah,
little, the comedy is a little better.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's that much better.
But yeah,
But the cast is pretty likable, and
it's got those like garish '60s colors.
yeah,
you know?
the colors are right. Everything is a floodlight and bright red.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, the Undertaker and his pals. Take your pals to see it.
The Undertaker and his pals.
So the Undertaker seemed like he was last in the description too. The pals came first.
Well, it's like that build up.
Yeah.
He's done this, he's done that.
The Undertaker.
The Undertaker.
So
It's a good one.
all right, so I have one that is a 2-word title, and you will recognize the first word. I'm going to see, after I say the first word, if anybody can guess the second word.
Okay.
And chances are somebody at this table will.
Okay.
The first word is Amityville.
Oh, horror.
No.
Oh, no. You got this, I think, right?
Amityville. It's not Amityville horror?
Dollhouse?
Yes. Amityville
Okay.
Dollhouse.
Okay.
Amityville
Just, you
doll.
have to laugh.
Wait, is this a real film?
It is a real film.
heard of this?
It is about a
Where have I
dollhouse
lived?
I know.
that is shaped like the house from Amityville Horror, and it is possessed by demons.
Brilliant.
That's
Yes.
pretty genius.
That's good. That really is good.
But to say Amityville
What year is
Dollhouse-
this?
This is it wasn't that long ago.
1996.
1996. Yeah.
Wait, Chris, it's a dollhouse
It's a
that's possessed
dollhouse.
by
Yes, it's possessed
demons?
by
It's
demons.
not really part of the franchise, I guess, right? I mean,
No, the only thing, although they do a lot of close-up shots on the dollhouse to see those, those
Those
windows that
iconic
look like
windows,
eyes.
yeah.
And I will say this, as dumb as the premise is, it has some really interesting things in it, like the fact that you would have a possessed dollhouse, but also it has a little bit of a mystery. Like there's part of the dollhouse in the attic it won't open, like the kid can't open part of the dollhouse. So and then just like, well, what's in there? That so there is a little bit of buildup, a classic horror buildup in it, but it's not a great movie. But it is. But it is, let me put it this way, with a title like Amityville Dollhouse, it's better than it has any right to be.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's enough for me.
Yeah, I am intrigued by this because it is a really cool concept.
Yeah.
Now, is the house itself is spooky, or are little dolls in it spooky, or
The dolls maybe move around on their own.
Oh.
Yeah. But, all
But
the
you're saying it's not great.
it's not great.
Don't be
no.
fooled
No.
by this.
By the franchise title of Amityville. But it is, like I said, it has some interesting parts where it's better than you think it's going to be, but not great.
Right, right.
And there's probably more truth to that story than the original
Could
Amityville
be,
film.
yeah.
That's probably a project that was sold on some, like the whole thing was hinged on somebody came up with that concept and sold the whole idea.
Yeah, right.
You
Yeah.
know?
But I need this in production in 4 weeks.
Yeah, right.
They went to MeFed and
Yeah.
they met with
Right.
Golan Globus
Yeah.
or somebody.
Yeah,
I'm like, yes.
totally.
It doesn't
would've-
matter whose house we shoot it in. Just build the dollhouse.
Yeah.
We're done.
Right.
To sell it, I would have had the dollhouse made. I would have just walked in, put
Yeah,
it on the
right.
table, and
Right.
went, "Give me some money."
That'd be great if that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Nice.
Okay, here's one. This is actually one of my favorite Incredibly Strange titles, maybe my very favorite. I may have mentioned this before on some show, I don't know what episode, but this is a 1937 kind of horror mystery from Warner Brothers. The title is Shh, the Octopus. That's
You brought this up before. I almost put that on my list, but I knew you were going to bring
yeah,
it up.
it's SH exclamation point the Octopus.
That is great.
And it's actually a fun little. It's like a horror mystery comedy. It's these two character actors, Hugh Herbert and Alan Jenkins, and they're these kind of bumbling, Abbott and Costello style detectives who are trapped in this spooky old lighthouse with some other people, and there's this master criminal known as the Octopus who's going around and killing people and kidnapping people.
So it's
It was
not
like-
an actual octopus.
Well, there is an actual octopus also in the movie, which is
great.
not really explained.
No,
but,
I really want to see this movie.
Yeah, and it's almost the entire thing takes place in this spooky old lighthouse set, and it's really good. It's really well shot, and it's just under an hour long, and it's just super atmospheric. It's pretty funny. And somebody, amidst the group is like the octopus, In the original Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the Frederick March version, you know how there is that lighting effect they use
Yes.
to make him
To transformation.
transform.
Yeah, he's got
The start of his transformation.
Right, they do it with lights and makeup,
Yes,
and
they do the similar effect to great effect in this movie, which
To turn someone into an octopus?
but it just reveals the killer in the film.
Okay.
And it's really scary, and it's even though the movie's a comedy, but that's a really effective moment. But it's just a great, super atmospheric, creaky little mystery thriller, and it's called Shh the Octopus. It's a fun film. It's really worth checking out.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah.
But I'm not quite sure, though, why the shh. Is it shh like the octopus is coming? Or shh, the octopus is in the room?
Or like,
Or they're
shit,
trying to
the
shush
octopus.
the octopus.
Yeah, shh, hey, octopus.
Yeah.
Shh.
You're too loud, octopus.
This is a library, octopus.
Yeah.
Well, let's go from tentacled creature
Okay.
to non-tentacled fruit
Oh,
Okay.
segue.
or
you trying to
vegetable. Well, what am I trying to say?
think
For another
I know.
strange and unusual title? Because I always thought this was strange and unusual, Matt.
All right.
And I'm talking about from 1978, Attack of the Killer Tomato.
Yeah, sure.
Strange and unusual title.
For sure.
Think about it. As a kid, look, I'm a product of the 70s, Big Mont, Godzilla versus Megalon, King Kong, Attack of the Killer Tomatoes? What? And this was a low-budget film.
Yep.
Yes.
Shot in San Diego, right?
Yeah, yes. And this was kind of like, in a way, if you want to call it a spoof or an homage to like
A boar?
or B films.
Yeah, definitely.
And the funny thing is, I remember Matt growing up in Northern California, seeing on Creature Features, they showed clips of this all the time. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, Bob Wilk would say, and here's the thing about Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Did you see the movie?
Yeah, I saw
Do
it.
you like it?
No, but but I'm not saying I'm
God
not.
bless you.
But I do have something I want to correct somebody on.
All right.
Okay.
The
And why are
sequel
you
is
pointing
better.
at me?
No, I apologize for pointing at you.
Okay.
But so let's just say that it's a musical, like dark comedy. I'm not necessarily going to recommend this. The title's funny. The tomatoes are interesting in a way, but there is a helicopter crash. And
Right. It's infamous for that.
No, actually, Sean, I looked into this. I think you mentioned on a previous show that the pilot was killed. The pilot was not killed.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and because I thought about it, man, I thought, oh my God, they actually showed the pilot get killed, and you thought, well, it's a low budget film. Look, if they have a helicopter crash, they're going to show it. But it was like he was injured, but he didn't die.
Oh, wow.
So I just wanted to set the record
No,
straight.
that's fine. It's interesting they still kept the footage in there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember one of their big jokes was that they had the Japanese scientist,
Yes.
Yes.
and his dubbing would be off, but just
Sure.
him.
Yeah. Yeah, but the helicopter, apparently because of the insurance and stuff, I mean, they damaged the helicopter. It cost like $60,000, more than half of what the film actually cost to make. Yeah.
I'm curious too because I know there was a later, bigger budgeted sequel
Yes, Return of the
Return
Killer
of the
Tomatoes.
with George Clooney.
Oh,
Yes, he
And
wasn't
John-
the star.
And John Aston was the mad scientist in it. And I think there's another one after that too.
Does anyone like this movie?
Not really. No,
No,
it's pretty bad.
I'm-
It's trying so hard.
I'm not a fan, but I did think it was a strange and unusual title.
No, I completely agree.
Do I get credit for that?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. No, it completely
And-
fits
and-
within this category.
I'm not saying, hey, folks, go out and I'd rather them see the Asphyx,
no.
Asphyx, but not Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Well, I will say this: when I was a kid and watched it, I kind of thought it was funny and entertaining. I watched it again recently with my son because it was free on Amazon. And neither one of us enjoyed it.
See, here's the thing. It's one of those movies that the incredibly strange title was really pushed into your face.
yeah, it's like a one joke thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's, hey, we want to go into this making this a midnight movie, a cult
Yes.
film.
Yes.
Right.
Uh-huh.
And no, you can't do it that way.
It's almost like it should have been just a parody trailer, and that's
Yes.
it, you
No.
know?
Right. Yeah. It's a sketch.
Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
like Hardware Wars in a way. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Which
right.
Hardware Wars seems like it's a long extended trailer. I agree
Right,
with you
right.
because I think on Creature Features they would show it as a trailer. And
that's
it
the way
seemed
to
like-
do it.
that's all you need.
Yeah,
I wonder though if Attack of the Killer Tomatoes did well though, because I do remember being all over the ads, and I mean it was so low budget, maybe it did make its money. You
and
know?
also because maybe it was so unusual and strange and kind of a funk. No,
Yeah,
there was no other title
yeah,
like
there's
that.
nothing real like that at the time that were like out and out kind of crazy parody title like that. Yeah.
Yeah, tomato apocalypse, or it just wouldn't have been the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there.
Remake.
Attack
Yeah.
the Killer
there.
Tomatoes. I'm
Okay.
not saying go out and see it.
No, you have done
It's just
your work.
There's my title.
Okay.
There's got to be remake plans in there somewhere. And then somewhere in Hollywood, it's like, I'm
Okay.
telling you, we can remake this.
See, Chris,
CGI is always
This
funny.
is my pet peeve when people go, the film was so bad. Let's try to make what was that, Birdemic 2? Or, it's like, hey,
Right.
we're going to make even a worse film. And people are going to, it's like, really? You're wasting my
When
time.
you set out to
know.
actively make a cult film, it never
No,
works.
it never
works.
It's like
Never works.
all the Sharknado sequels.
Yeah, but like
Right.
right. But the first one was like this, whatever. It just
it was kind of a fluke, right? I mean,
fluke, right? But then, yeah, exactly.
you can't make it again.
Well, they came pretty close because they had the same director and they just let him do what he was going to do.
And
And I'm sure they
Ian
did
Ziering
well
wasn't-
enough, right? I mean, for the
I'm not talking
Sci-Fi
about-
Channel,
I'm not
right?
talking about Sharknado. I'm talking about Birdemic. which
Oh,
is-
Birdemic.
By the way, I have a casting credit on Birdemic 2.
Wow. Congratulations.
Oh my gosh, I got to go out and see it just so I can see your name in the credits.
No, you don't.
What are you credited as?
Casting associate?
Okay.
Yeah, I cast
Wow.
like 3 Playmates in it or something.
Did you
Cool.
really?
I was also buddies with the producer, and
That's
he
right,
was he was like our first guest.
Yeah, we had him on.
way back in the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's he now?
Austin, Texas. Anyway, I'm gonna roll the roulette wheel again. If you'll indulge me,
I'll indulge you.
indulge me now because I'm going
Indulge him now.
for the nature of this topic. I'm going off genre a bit. No, because this topic warrants it, and I'm talking about spaghetti westerns. Because they had
What?
to come up with very
there's some
evocative,
crazy titles.
extremely evocative gonzo titles.
Yeah, kind of like the giallo genre also.
Translated
has
from the
crazy-
Italian.
Right.
Are you not accepting, Larry?
No, I'm curious. What?
Look, I'm not accepting it, but since
Oh.
we're this far down the line, let's just get it over with.
Oh, okay. Rope for a bastard.
No, nice.
Okay.
God made them. I kill them.
That's good.
Wait, this is all one title?
No, these are different titles.
Oh, I'm
spinning-
Spaghetti Western titles. For
Oh.
when we do that offshoot Spaghetti Western podcast.
Yes.
What, you mean we're not going to do that?
Is it
bad idea.
Billy the Kid versus
Well,
Frankenstein's
that's not-
daughter?
well,
But
well.
go ahead.
My horse, my gun, your widow.
That's good.
Okay,
I like
all
that
right,
one.
all right.
Bastard, go and kill. Long live your death.
That's
Yeah, okay.
Kill them all and come back alone.
Ooh.
Which is actually a pretty famous one. Django, kill. If you live, shoot. This one is actually a famous cult movie. The Handsome, the Ugly, and the Stupid.
Is that made by Asylum?
Yeah, that's an asylum.
Today we kill, tomorrow we die.
Okay, yeah.
And
And on a big one.
wow. Well, I'm gonna end on one that I actually really like.
Okay.
It's not a terrific title, but it's A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. No.
Nice. Smooth. You want to start the show again?
Okay. A reason to live, a reason to die.
Reason to live.
reason to live.
A reason to die.
There is one called A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. This one is A Reason to Live, A Reason to Die. It's from 1972 with James Coburn and Bud Spencer as 2 Union officers who have to reclaim a fort from Telly Savalas, who's this gonzo Confederate soldier who takes this fort. And it's got a great score by Riz Ortolani. I love the genre. I don't get to talk about it that much. Of course, it's Monster Party. We're not going to talk about Westerns, but this was one of my personal favorites. And these titles, to me, are priceless. 'Cause
They are great titles.
They're translated from Italian, and there were so many of these made between like 1966 and 1972. And most of them I've never seen, you'll never see, let's face it. But the titles need a little bit of the spotlight.
I would say this. I would say that the spaghetti Western mirrors horror more than, let's just say, other Westerns do. Because usually the villains are so vile. And
they get into some surreal territory.
yeah,
sometimes, some of them.
amazing. Yeah,
blood,
incredibly violent.
Violence.
Yeah.
And formulaic, I mean, after Morricone, that every composer
Yeah.
had this.
I mean, Once Upon a Time in the West, with Fonda,
Classic.
I mean, he is a monster in that thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I will grant you a pass for this particular
Thank
episode.
you. Strange titles.
It is.
You
Those
know.
are strange. I thought one of them was going to be like a handful of coins.
Oh, there were so many of those.
Like instead
There
of
were so
fistful
many
of
of
dollars,
those. There
it
were
was
tons of those.
because you did the handsome instead of good, bad, and
A
ugly.
fistful of asphyx.
Is it
Yep.
asphyx?
So kind of.
I don't know. I don't know anymore. I give up.
Another one was maybe kind of forgiven. That kind of,
Wow. Okay, those are neat. Those are neat, James.
All right.
Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're going to do that one, I'm going to do one that is, I would call it a horror movie. It's probably more of a thriller. It's definitely an exploitation film, and it's certainly a classic.
Okay.
And I don't think we've ever really discussed it on this show. It's the 1965 Russ Meyer film, Faster Pussycat, Kill,
Kill.
Kill.
Classic title.
Yeah, you know what? It is a bit of a maybe not a classic horror, but there are horrific
No.
elements in it.
I would
Matt.
say-
when I saw it for the first time, I mean
They are,
yeah,
no, they're, I would say it's a horror movie because Billy, Rosie, and Varla are monsters, but Varla, played by Tura Satana, she is this perfect mixture of, I guess the quote is, she's like a velvet glove cast in iron. So she's soft, but she's hard and
Right.
femme fatale.
femme fatale, yeah.
But for the listeners to understand this film, it's these three women that really
They're
feel
go-go dancers in a nightclub.
But it's not. I mean, you see the ugliness of men around them, and they're doing their show, they're doing their act, and they're in a way. Some of them are like bitter. They're angry. They have to do what they have to do to make their living, and they despise the men that they kind of do the go-go dance for, in a sense.
I'm not so sure. What do you think about
I
this?
think they're man haters, aren't they?
But I think they hate everybody. I don't
Yeah,
really think
okay.
it's specifically
Right.
aimed at men. They don't like men, no.
Right.
But they like men when they find them attractive. It's kind of like the gender roles are turned on their ear.
They're dominant.
And so when they get out of this place where they have to work, they get in these cars. They're these fast cars.
Their
that they
day
love.
job, go-go dancer. Or I guess their night job.
yeah,
Their night job.
yeah.
When they're off the stage.
Day job, farm explorer.
Yeah. They get in their hot rods and they drive around. They cause trouble. They go to like the salt flats and they're racing around. And there's a guy with his girlfriend and they're doing these what they call them, like timing runs.
Yeah.
And there's a little race that happens that ends in murder and a kidnapping.
Yeah.
And the rest of the story you have to see to believe.
Yeah.
But it's great. The music is amazing. The theme song of Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is incredible. It's, I think, one of Russ Meyer's finest films.
Yeah.
It's raw and pure entertainment and some great fight scenes.
And if
Classic drive-in exploitation.
And
Yes.
if I could just say one thing about Russ Meyer, a lot of people may be familiar with Russ Meyer, knowing that, well, he did a lot of these films with these buxom women, all these, women that have big breasts and stuff. Well, that actually kind of came later. What people don't understand about Russ Meyer is Russ Meyer during World War II, he filmed a lot of stuff in World War II, action stuff. We're not talking stage stuff. He actually shot battles. And here he filmed all this battle stuff, and he comes to Hollywood thinking, I'm an experienced filmmaker. And he learns about, you got to get into the union. You got to start, as a PA. And he's going, well, this is bullshit, man. So he put money together to make this film. I'm not sure if it's exactly his first film, but it's like one of the first couple. I forget exactly.
It's not his first, but it's relatively early.
Yeah, and it's an action film. And he was actually a really good action filmmaker. In fact,
This movie moves.
A lot of these other films that came later, which had buxom women and stuff like that, there was an element of action and suspense and violence that you can see early on in Faster Pussycat Kill Kill.
Very fast paced was his style. It was a lot of quick cutting.
Yeah.
In all his movies.
Yeah.
And some of those titles, I mean, Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens. He had some
great.
other
Some
crazy
great titles,
too.
yeah.
And if I understand, I mean, he not only shot it and directed, I think he did a lot of editing too himself. So
Yeah, he's only a one-man.
and it's a
one-man
great
filmmaker.
cast. I mean, Tura Satana is wonderful. Haji, Laurie Williams, and then Susan Bernard, who I think we just lost.
yeah, she just passed away. Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's a great If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor. It is a rockin' good time.
It's a really neat. Imagine going to the drive-in, with your lady or your buddies, and you got your popcorn, and your hot dog, and you're watching it, and it's a good film.
Yeah,
I'm with you, Matt.
Good one.
Good title.
Thank you. All right, Chris Mancini.
I have a kids movie.
Hey!
I have a kids movie that terrified children, and I had to double check your list to make sure you hadn't already put it on. It was like, I can't believe this isn't on the list already.
Okay.
The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked
Definitely.
about this on a previous show, but
I love that movie.
it
Yeah,
is
me
a
too.
great
It is a
title.
It soured Dr. Seuss from ever making another film.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, it was based on his story, but he saw the end result and he was like, I'm going to stick to writing books. I think I'm done.
Was that at the time? Was it a hit?
No,
No.
it was a disaster.
Okay.
But it established this cult following
Right,
afterwards.
okay.
Where
Right.
people were like trying to seek it out and they couldn't find it. And
Right.
I think it got re-released.
Yeah.
I believe.
Right.
I saw it on Creature Features as a kid, and if I remember correctly, one of the problems they had with the film is they didn't know who to market this film to.
They had no
Right.
idea.
They had
Right.
no. I mean, and so you follow this little boy who is, he like many little kids in the 50s. You want to play baseball, but your mom has you practice the piano.
Yes.
Many kids had to practice the piano. It's like, that was, or your violin or something. So not only does he have to practice the piano, he is supposedly sent to this camp, or if
Yes.
you want to call it camp, or
It's almost like a concentration
Even
camp.
evil
Yeah.
scientists,
where
music
all
camp.
these
Yeah.
other kids just like him have to go and learn how to play the piano. And
Yes.
the bad thing is it makes the piano seem like the villain,
Right.
And but if you're a little boy that wants to go out and play baseball with your buddies, I can understand.
Yep. The piano is your prison.
Exactly. And Dr. T, who is this man who has this giant piano, and he has
Yes.
this idea of having all these kids play this massive piano all at the same time. But it's a really neat, unusual film. It's a musical. It's got comedy. It's got scary things. Matt and I think we talked about the scary bearded man.
Connected at the beard.
Yeah, there are these two
Yeah.
guys who are on roller skates who are connected at the beard who chase this little boy and throughout this weird environment.
Because
So-
you could see, like, that's a Dr. Seuss drawing. Like,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and all those things.
Yes.
And for everything from the instruments to the environments, you can
Yeah.
see they're from
And the
Dr.
beanies with the
Yeah.
hand.
And the seemingly endless piano.
yeah.
Yeah.
It just
Right,
seems
right.
to just
Goes
go on forever. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, when I first heard the title, I was thinking, this must have like some weird science, mad scientist monster that has like, 5,000 fingers. And it's not.
Right.
It references the captive children that
Yes.
he's
Right.
using to play the piano
Yeah.
for him.
If you remember, there's one moment that really freaked me out as a kid. And that was as the kids get off the bus and they all have their little suitcases. And there are these big thugs that check the kids' suitcases for what do you have in there? You check the clothes and they take out your baseball glove, your baseball mitt, a slingshot, anything that had to do with something
Fun.
that little boys would play and be fun. Was removed and thrown into like a garbage pan,
Right.
garbage pail.
Right.
And it was like these big thugs.
Just think if they threw your Micronaut into the.
That'd be horrible. but
That couldn't have been real, that reaction just now.
No, but what's funny is if you remember the film, you see all the kids, they had well over like 100 or 200 kids, and all these kids had these little beanies.
Yeah.
A little beanie with a little hand on it. And we've talked about this
I'd
on the
love
show.
to have one of
Oh my
those.
God. In the past, like 10 years, a couple have come up at auction and sold for
actual props?
actual props
Wow.
from the film.
The hand was rubber.
It
right?
was rubber, and it was
So, that's the
deteriorating.
problem, yeah.
It was deteriorating, which is, and the hat is made out of a really thin material, almost falling apart itself.
Better off
But-
just making your own.
well,
Yeah.
yeah.
You should
Yeah.
make your own cosplay.
Yeah.
It'd be awesome.
Cosplay.
Yeah.
Oh my
But the
gosh,
movie's like- but now-
James.
If we all walked around with those?
Yeah.
Awesome.
But now watching the movie as an adult, I appreciate it. I love Hans Conried. I mean,
Yeah,
Oh, he's
great.
terrific.
He is
Dr.
great.
Terwilliger.
Yeah.
I mean, the songs are not very good, but they're kind of. I mean, some of them are relatively memorable, but it just has
they?
such a 50s kind of.
Sing
like,
one.
come on and dress me in my Acolo Capote. Don't you remember this?
There you go.
Dress me. Do you remember this?
Just when I think I can't respect you anymore.
But it's got a great 50s vibe to it, too. And it's interesting that
Yes.
I didn't know that Dr. Seuss actually co-wrote the screenplay.
Yeah,
it wasn't
he sure
just like
did.
based, I mean...
No.
Yeah.
He was involved.
And
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
recall, the little boy's mother is really, really hot. Because remember, Mr. Zabludowski, the plumber,
Mr.
he
Zabludowski.
wants to get the plumber into his. He wants the plumber.
rephrase that?
He wants to get his father's passed away, and
Right.
so he wants his mother to get together with the
the
plumber.
aphids.
Sure.
Yeah. But good title.
Must have
Yeah.
been.
Was that?
The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T.
T.
It's a neat poster, too.
There should
is a
be
cool
some sort
poster.
of anal heroin called the Asphyx.
Anyway, for listeners, you check out the poster. It's really kind of cool.
Cool. Very Seussian.
Yeah, I love it. Who's next?
Sean
Okay,
Sheridan.
here's one that's not very Seussian, but this is from a favorite director of ours, maybe, Ray Dennis Steckler. Ray Dennis Steckler, on our first Incredibly Strange Titles episode,
Right.
of course, had one, which is his famous one. In fact, where we got kind of our title for the episode.
Yes.
His movie, The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies.
Which is kind of like the poster child for this topic.
Right.
Yeah, or
right.
the poster child of the last episode that we did with this title.
That's what I just said.
Yeah. You paying attention?
were you
Did
listening
you
to me, Larry?
go away into your little
I
Asphyx
did.
land?
Right. Pay attention. As I said,
He was still trying to wrap his head around the heroin thing.
Anal heroin.
yeah. So
Intriguing.
So there's another Steckler film that also has an
Okay.
incredibly strange title, Larry.
Do tell, Sean.
Yeah,
Temper's
this
flare.
is from 1966, Rat Fink a Boo Boo. Now, let me explain. Because
Please.
the movie, Steckler started out filming it as this kind of straight crime thriller drama about these criminals who kidnap this woman, and police are after him. And then halfway through the movie, he decided, hey, the Batman TV series is very popular, so I'll do like a Cheap Jack superhero spoof
Yikes.
with this superhero duo, Rat Fink and his trusty sidekick, Boo Boo. And it's a terrible,
Yeah, it's a
bottom
bad
of
one.
the barrel film. But what's interesting is that the movie was released with the
Tell me
title
what's interesting.
Rat Fink a Boo Boo. There was a mistake supposedly in the title. It was supposed to be and Boo Boo, but so it was later fixed. But supposedly Steckler claims that he did it on purpose because his daughter at the time would go around saying "Rat Fink a Boo Boo, Rat Fink a Boo Boo." It sounded cool, but others
What is
claim,
it, George Lucas?
yeah,
Although it does sound cooler.
It does.
It is
This,
a better
sounds
title.
like a title retcon.
Yeah.
yeah.
It
But,
sounds like a nightclub.
But others claim that it was like actual mistake in the titles, and like he didn't want to pay the $50 to fix the titles, so he just released it as
That's
Rat
about
Fink a
right.
Boo Boo. But it's Rat Fink Pfink a Boo Boo. So it's a pretty strange title. You gotta admit, it's a pretty bad movie, but it's kind of a classic, incredibly strange title.
You've got a title and then an alternate title.
Exactly.
That is a very strange title, Sean. Thank you for bringing that one up.
Yeah, I like the fact that we have to punctuate each one with, yes, that does fit in the topic. You have done your work.
Thank you.
All right,
right,
Larry. If we were looking for an incredibly strange
What
title,
would one be?
Well,
yes, Larry?
I have a title. I have several here, but I actually have a question for Sean.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Do you remember the last time we did this show?
Yeah. No.
No, I don't either. Nobody does.
But go
And
ahead.
you were listing a whole bunch of films.
Okay.
And one of them was the film called, I think you said Zat.
ZAAT. Yes.
Yes.
It's also known as Blood Waters of Dr. Z.
Okay. Well, this one
Maybe
is
better.
this
Yeah.
one is not Zat.
Okay.
This film is called Zots.
Oh yes.
Zots
Wayne-
from
Wayne-
1960.
Wayne Castle.
Yes, from 1962.
Zat and Zots.
That's right. Because the funny thing is, as I was going over this list, and I go, Sean mentioned Zat. What the fuck? What is the? That's not a film. He was just, And then because I knew of Zots, I
That's
go,
a good one.
maybe he got
Not a good
Zots.
movie, but
no,
it's a good title.
no.
It's just
that's the title of this
Oh,
show.
yes, we know
is
what the
not.
title of
That is a
fucking
great
show.
film. It's
Chris,
with strange
I'm so sorry.
titles. So just for the listeners, Zots, Zotz from 1962. It has to do with this.
Kneel before Zots.
Yeah, well, this scientist who finds this coin that he translated, and it says, if you say this magical word, it'll give you this power where you could, kill someone or like have affect time or something. And so he goes, oh, the word is Zots, and it's like if he points.
Is it Tom Poston?
Tom Poston. Yep.
Yeah. If you
Poston?
point
Oh my
from
Newhart.
Newhart.
yes.
And other stuff.
But if he points and says it, it's like, oh, my heart, your heart is like stopping or something like that. So he's basically turned himself into a weapon by saying this word.
Right.
Didn't they give out the coin?
I
the
think
theater?
so. I think
Yeah,
there was
something
like
that-
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And this is a comedy. This is
it's not.
wacky comedy.
Yeah, and
I'll just
The
say,
jury's still out about that,
I
but-
love William Castle, but
As to
But-
comedy is not his forte.
No.
I agree with you, Sean,
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
And I had high hopes for it when I saw it because when you think of William Castle,
Sure.
I mean, I think of a lot of other things, but I don't think of Zots. But maybe he was trying to shake things up a bit. Something that you would like. The tagline for the ad campaign was "Zay it, and Zoom."
Oh my God, that's great.
Had a great cast though.
Somebody
Yeah,
either got
Jim-
a raise or fired.
fired.
Yeah.
Thurston, Jim Backus,
Jim
Mr.
Backus,
Magoo
yeah.
is in it.
Fred Clark,
Yeah.
Cecil Kellaway, Margaret Dumont is in it.
Cecil Kellaway, who from A Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and it was weird to see him in it because in a way I always see him as like being so serious and like serious.
There's
films.
another. It's not an incredibly strange title, but it's along the lines with another Tom Poston William Castle film, which is The Old Dark House. It was Castle's kind of remake of Old Dark House made in the 60s. Oh. Another one that's just not very, a forced comedy.
Yeah,
it's
that's
just
so
not his
good.
thing.
And that's Poston again, right?
Yep. But definitely, Larry, an incredibly strange title.
Thank you, Sean.
Incredibly
Thank you.
strange.
Thank you. Oh, God. So I'm batting 1,000 here.
Okay.
All right, James.
James, you are on the show. and-
Romantic comedies? next?
yeah.
On the
Chick flicks for 1,000.
on the last episode, we talked about all the teenage monster movies.
Right.
I was a teenage werewolf, Frankenstein.
I was a teenage asphyx.
One title I don't think we've ever mentioned before is I was a teenage zombie, and this was from 1987. You ever
Vaguely.
anybody seen this?
No, I vaguely knew of it. but-
I don't know of
It did
this.
not get wide release, and this was an East Coast production.
I'm surprised.
This was almost like Trauma before Trauma. I mean,
Okay.
it was like that production value.
Okay.
I saw it at a sneak preview, and it was never. I saw it theatrically, but it was never released theatrically. And I'm not recommending it, but it like
None of the films
I know,
that you're
I
bringing
know.
up today, you're recommending.
I know. Although I do have one to recommend later, but
Okay.
if we get to it. But there are a couple of laugh out loud moments.
What's the premise of it?
The premise is that there's these high school teenagers,
And they're zombies.
well, there's
One
a
of them is,
there's
at
a
least.
toxic waste dump, and they
course.
get pissed off at their local drug dealer, and they throw him into the toxic waste dump, and then he comes back.
Oh, okay.
But
okay.
he's back, and he's sort of like he wants to kind of blend in with the rest of the crowd, so he wants to go to the prom, and it's one of those like again, it's trauma before trauma. If that's your taste, check it out.
Right.
There you go.
Okay.
Might not be that hard to find nowadays. Now that everything's been released,
Right.
So that's a fairly strange title.
Yeah.
It's fairly strange. Well, if you think about it, I mean, if you think about it, how can anybody look back and say I was a teenage zombie? For one thing, you stay a teenage zombie, plus you're already dead. So I'm still a teenage zombie as far as I'm
true.
concerned.
Wasn't there some movie that was like a romantic comedy with some teenage kids, and there's like
It's
a
a-
teenage boy
He was a zombie.
who becomes a zombie, but he
Right.
still kind of has his marbles a little bit.
Right.
And he falls in love with a live girl.
Right.
I think it was called Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
I haven't seen it.
Hey!
Good.
That
You know,
that
that's
was
what
not
I
a
was
bad
thinking.
movie.
That's kind of
actually.
what I
I
was
haven't
thinking
seen
of.
it.
Did you ever see that?
I never
Chris?
saw that
Same
one.
kind
No.
of tongue-in-cheek type.
Yeah, I was pretty entertaining.
Cool.
But the film that you brought up is not that entertaining, though.
Sporadically. Hey,
Sporadic.
if you like trauma stuff, I think you should check it out.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to do this as a double feature.
Okay.
Okay? So the first feature is a 1973 exploitation film called Please Don't Eat My Mother. So I guess this is what you would describe as an adult parody of Little Shop of Horrors, starring Buck Cartalion as Henry Fudd. And Henry is this guy who is shy. He is not really good with women. He gets this plant, and the plant, becomes sentient, kind of like Audrey. And it's a female plant, and the plant thirsts for female bodies, but talks in kind of a sexy voice. And so, he lives with his mom. The mom comes into his room thinking that he's talking to a woman. It's like, what are you doing in there? But it's just the plant. And then at one point, Henry decides he's going to get a companion for the plant. So he gets another man-eating plant. It's a man plant. And and the man plant eats only men. And hilarity continues to ensue. But
Okay, so there's that one.
So there's that one, and I would play that with Picture Mommy Dead.
Picture Mommy Dead.
1966 Bird Eye Gordon film. Stars Don Amici.
Wow.
Oh my god.
And this woman, Susan Kelly, thinks that her father killed her mother, and she ends up going to an asylum, then comes out. She's reunited with her father, and there's a new stepmother, and there's a bunch of weird things that happen. There's a little bit of like gaslighting and things going on, but it's not a great movie. But
I've not seen that one.
Zsa Zsa Gabor's in it too.
Wow.
And I was doing some research on this thing, and I guess Martha Heyer is the stepmother, and Gene Tierney was originally going to be
Really?
in that role.
Wow.
Originally.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Hedy Lamarr was supposed to star as the original mom.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so it was
quite
all
a
these
cast.
names. And then Lamarr, I guess, was fired from what I read because she got caught for shoplifting. And she was replaced by Zsa Zsa Gabor.
No.
Interesting.
So yeah, a lot of drama behind the scenes.
I'm sure.
But bring the kids, bring the family.
Right.
It's a mommy killing double
Double
feature.
feature.
Yeah.
Wow.
We
It's a
talked
drive-in.
about I Dismember Mama, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Right.
We could do a triple feature. I like this.
Chris?
This is a Czechoslovakian film, and it is a movie by, I can never remember how to pronounce his name, von Svenkmeyer.
Jan Svinkmeyer.
yeah.
Yeah.
And,
the famous animator.
Yes, and it is called Greedy Guts.
Ooh, I like that.
Greedy Guts, and
Title.
it's the original title, I think, is in Czechoslovakian, so they're like, we got to change this title for people to actually understand what's going on. And it is a crazy, crazy story. It also has a very Little Shop of Horrors vibe to it.
Really?
There's a couple that cannot get pregnant. They can't have a child. They're very upset about it. One of them, the husband is a woodsman. So he brings home a block of wood from a tree and said, well, this is your new baby. So the wife decides that is the new baby and starts cuddling it and holding it and treats it like an actual baby, even though it's basically a part of a tree trunk.
Little Twin Peaks there.
But then one day, the tree trunk starts to nurse on its own on the woman. And the tree baby starts to get larger and has a rather large appetite. So
God.
it is
Is it
also
kinda
based on
serious or
it's mix of like serious with based in some folklore, some Czechoslovakian folklore about the Czechoslovakian monster.
Wow.
But then it's like part animated. It's because the monster's animated because he's an animator, but it's mostly live action, and it just gets weirder and creepier and weirder as it goes on. But it definitely is almost like a Czechoslovakian baby Little Shop of Horrors.
Sounds like
wood.
I really want to see
like
this. This sounds
Or like
brilliant.
Eraserhead or something.
Yeah, it is, but it's actually more coherent than Eraserhead because it actually tells a more coherent story, even as crazy as it is. It really does have a beginning, middle, and end to it. Wow. But it's but the fact that they just renamed it, like if you look it up, it has this weird long Czechoslovakian name, and that has to be kind of the mythological name of like probably the creature that it's supposed to be.
Right.
But they just renamed it Greedy Guts.
Greedy guts.
Wow.
He did a ton of really cool animation.
Yeah, stop motion is brilliant.
Yeah, and
very dark.
If I remember correctly, there was also he did some animation during World War II, and he did it in secret.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I remember hearing the story about if he was caught or captured because it was very anti-Nazi stuff. So pretty cool. Really, really amazing filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I've been drinking tonight, but I mean, I do know that.
Yes.
Very cool.
He's also a filmmaker that does features and shorts. Like he has a ton of short films.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice one, Chris. That is a very strange and unusual title.
Cool.
And Larry, that was incredibly strange trivia.
Hey, there's a lot more where that came from.
Okay.
Cool.
John?
All right, here's one you guys probably have heard of, if not seen. From 1988, kind of a sci-fi action comedy. Hell Comes to Frogtown. Great
Rowdy
title.
Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Roddy Piper. This is kind of right before he did They Live, I believe. Roddy Piper, Sandal Bergman, William Smith, Rory Calhoun. It's after World War III. There's no more fertile men, except for Sam Hell, played by Piper. And so, of course, he's sought after, and he's captured by these women who fasten this kind of like codpiece over him, this metal codpiece to protect his junk. But he has to go like rescue a bunch of women from these like mutant frog community who are like using them as sex slaves. So he has to go in there and save them. But he's like rebellious and doesn't want to do it. So they have a little electric shock to his groin if he tries to take it off.
God.
And it's really fun though. There's lots of crazy, frog creature effects. And
I love frog.
So there really
creature
is a
effects.
frog town.
Yeah. There's like these mutant kind of frog people. It's pretty cool. And
Okay.
it's like a Mad Max type world. And it's definitely, of course, doesn't take itself seriously. But it's fun. And it's called Hell Comes to Frogtown.
Wow.
And I think there's a sequel which Roddy wasn't in.
Hell continues to come to Frogtown.
Frogtown. Yeah, but it's fun. I mean, that's a title that really grabs you.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of grab, we're gonna go from Frogtown to Whoretown.
Horror town.
Yes,
Whore.
yeah,
Horror town, not horror town.
No, like in prostitutes.
Prostitute. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
I know this is going to sound kind of weird. This isn't necessarily. It's
Okay.
got a great, strange title.
Okay.
It's called from 1972. Who Killed Mary? What's her name? Yes.
all right.
Who killed Mary? What's her
this
name?
one. Okay.
And then cheers. You would think who killed Mary Brown or something. No, it's Mary. What's her name? It's a mystery. I don't know. Whoa. And the funny thing is, it's not so much that I saw this. I was doing research on the star of the
titles.
of the star of the film for something completely different. And I came across this guy, and I thought, you were in this film? And I'm talking about legendary comedian Red Buttons.
Yeah.
wow.
But he's not
Okay.
a comedian in this.
Never had a dinner.
Never got a dinner.
No, but what's weird is the film was also known as Death of a Hooker, which
Equally good title.
well, I think from 1972, it's like maybe Death of a Hooker might be a little too strong. Let's call it something else. And the main character knows this street walking gal, and everyone kind of knows her, and someday she gets killed, and the police aren't dealing with it. The townspeople aren't really dealing with it because she's just a prostitute. But he's upset, and he needs to find out who killed Mary. What's her name? But what's weird is, you have interesting group of a cast. You have Conrad Bain from Different Strokes. Wow. Sam Waterston from Law and Order.
Oh.
So, I mean, you have some, big name people, although they weren't necessarily big names at the time, because this was 72. Right. But still, the title, I thought you guys would like it. Who Killed Mary? What's her name?
It's a good title.
It also gives you the idea of like, well, is this like a horror comedy or like because
Especially with Red Buttons. Now, the
Yeah.
weird thing is the film did not do well. And I was actually going to ask Sean, because I'm not aware of it being on Blu-ray. I know it was on VHS.
Yeah, I don't.
But
know of
I
this
don't
film.
believe this was on Blu-ray, and it's not necessarily a film. I'm going to say, hey, go out and check, unless you're a big Red Buttons
Well,
fan.
Right.
it doesn't sound like it would be a bad movie.
No, it doesn't.
The story
Right.
sounds a little intriguing.
And the idea that it's what's her name, that it's just this what you would think would be a forgettable person because she's this
Right, because she's-
prostitute,
right.
but she's a person, she matters, and
Especially Red Buttons, going after that kind of a case.
Yeah.
What's
yeah.
interesting, he was on an episode of Fantasy Island where, in a way, he played kind of a similar kind of character, which was kind of interesting. The guy that everyone kind of loves.
also investigating the murder of a hooker.
No.
That was his fantasy.
No, not exactly. But anyway, there's another strange and unusual title, Matt.
Yes, it is.
James, your
Wow.
corner.
All right. Well, I'm going to go a little outside the box again. These are,
I'm not surprised.
Outside the box.
No.
Crap.
These are strange because these are strange translations of titles, namely translations of Godzilla titles. What some of these movies were called.
Where'd you get this idea, James?
What some of these movies were called in other countries, namely Germany, which had its own really creative way. At some point,
Right.
Early on, what they called Monster Zero was Command from the Dark.
Wait, what? In Germany they called it Command from the Dark?
Because Godzilla itself wasn't a bankable title, so they had to come up with other things. Shortly after that, into the early 70s, they just decided to call him Frankenstein.
Well,
Are you kidding
they
me?
used it a couple times.
No.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing Frankenstein in some of the foreign titles.
Yeah, I remember. You know, it's funny. I remember seeing some. I think it was a German posters, and it said Frankenstein versus something, but I didn't.
And it had a picture of Godzilla on it?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my
okay,
God.
what else you got there?
I think it just means a monster, I guess.
Yeah, but it was vague enough.
Right.
Son of Godzilla was called Frankenstein's Monsters Hunt Godzilla's Son.
Oh my God.
Well, at least that's in the ballpark, right?
Destroy All Monsters was called Frankenstein and the Monsters from Space.
All right.
Okay.
Godzilla versus the Smog Monster was called Frankenstein's Battle Against the Devil's Monsters.
Well.
Godzilla versus Gigan was called Frankenstein's Hellspawn.
That's a cool title.
Hellspawn?
Godzilla versus Megalon was called King Kong Demons from Outer Space.
Okay, that makes no sense whatsoever.
Only Gigans from outer space, right?
And there's no King Kong.
Ghidra's
Right.
from outer space.
But King Kong is not. Well, right.
Godzilla versus Megalon in Italy, I think, was called Gorgo versus Superman.
What?
Oh, that is
That's
so
great.
wrong.
They're
Gorgo's
just-
the monster from England.
So they just had a dartboard with names on it.
They did.
It's like famous monsters on the
Leave it to the
wall.
Germans to make Godzilla German.
So the Germans go, they had a, what will this monster be? Let's call it, call it Frankenstein.
Call it Heinrich.
And finally, the terror of Mechagodzilla was called Konga, Godzilla, King Kong, the Spawn of the Devil. So at least Godzilla worked its way in there.
But it's weird they took a Gorgo and Conga. Like they looked at it at British film title.
Yeah,
like,
that's so
that is
They
bizarre.
so don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really hate this whole franchise.
And I've got a couple of these import posters that say,
Oh yeah, they say.
that's pretty awesome,
King Kong
man.
and Frankenstein.
Well,
Yeah.
James, I want to commend you. I like those. Those
cool.
I think those are strange and unusual titles.
Well, there you go. Thank you.
What was it? One of them called "Shoot First, Godzilla."
Stop or my Godzilla will shoot.
All right, Matt, bring it home.
All right. Well, this is one that I was intrigued by as a child when I was watching Creature Features.
Oh.
And I would always see the trailer being played on Creature Features. And it's an interesting title. It's strange. And when you hear it, you're like, what is this? Especially the way that the announcer in the trailer says it. And the film is from 1973, written and directed and starring John Landis. It's Schlock.
Schlock.
Now, Schlock. And that's what they would do in the trailer. Every time the title card would
Right.
hit the screen, it would be Schlock. And you're like, what is this? And then you see this, not a crappy Ape Man suit, because Rick Baker
Oh yeah,
worked on this film.
Yeah,
And
he plays the
and
ape.
plays the ape.
Yeah, I
which
thought it
is-
was pretty good.
Yeah.
It's actually a fun. I mean, it's it's a stupid Mad Magazine style comedy made
I
by
did
like,
enjoy it.
what 20?
Yeah.
I think it was 20 when you made it.
Yeah, and
Landis?
I believe it's his first movie.
yeah.
Yeah, and then Schlock is this ape man. He looks mostly like a gorilla, though.
Yeah.
Right.
And he can play the piano.
Right.
He gives TV interviews. And he falls in love with a teenage blind girl.
Right.
And so it's actually not a bad
Yeah,
life for
yeah.
Schlock.
Yeah.
No. What could go wrong?
No. Except the film. But I think it is actually
Yeah.
pretty entertaining.
And
I
actually
think
it
it's a good movie.
has an alternate title that's also pretty strange, which is The Banana Monster.
The banana. Oh, that is good.
Yeah, it was also released as that. Yeah.
But that was one it took me a long time to see, because it was one of those movies, that you'd see on Creature Features advertised.
Yeah.
But I don't remember ever seeing it in advertised in the theater. I don't think
Right.
it ever came to the show, did it?
I don't recall.
I don't recall it. No.
Right.
But so I saw it years and years after, and yeah, I thought it was fun. You know, you could kind of see the path that Landis
Yeah.
was going to go down.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well,
A
that
lot
was
of Kentucky Fried Movie
Yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, we could go on and on.
We could,
Right.
yes, but
this has been fun
poor
because
Chris would like to someday regain his ordinary life.
Are we going to throw out
my
a
family
couple?
keeps paging me.
Yeah.
oh, you want to do a lightning round?
Yeah.
Just do like one really fast.
Yeah, I mean, from 1992, they keep paging. So that's it.
Wow, we're in some sort of time vortex. Yeah, just throw. If you got some titles, just throw them out there.
You know what? I actually have one I forgot. Can I mention my movie?
Sure.
It's last time I was here, I talked about how my movie Asylum was destroyed.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But I didn't mention that it got renamed in certain countries. In Japan, it was called SWAT versus Devil.
That's a great title.
You do want to see that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
That's
more
great.
exciting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Any others?
Yes, I have a couple other ones.
Yeah, just run
one of
through
them
them.
is
Just throw a couple out.
Cherry 2000.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Whereas Melanie Griffith has to gets hired
Act.
to find someone's gets hired to fix someone's sex robot.
Right.
It's a
Tim
great-
Thomerson's in that.
Yeah. Naked Lunch, of course.
That's a
the-
good one.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
a
a
good
good one.
and Invasion USA
Oh.
Yeah.
and Snowpiercer.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Such a great movie.
Those are
Gotta love that
nice.
movie, yeah.
Nice one,
Okay,
Chris.
Sean.
Thanks.
All right, here's a few. Matt, I think you turned me on to this movie. This is an insane Italian kind of horror, phantasmagorical sex movie, Nude for Satan.
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
It's like this guy, doctor and this woman like go to this weird castle and they kind of meet their doppelgangers and they're kind of the evil sides of themselves and weird.
Doppelgangbang.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. Hillbillies in a haunted house.
Sure.
Oh, that's great. I want to see that.
Country singers stay at a haunted house where there's like spies hiding in the basement, and the spies are played by Lon Chaney Jr., John Carradine, and Basil Rathbone.
Wow.
And it features excruciating country music,
Oy.
which you can just forward through. But
God bless you.
I have to mention a previous guest of ours, David Dakota, one of my favorite titles, Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
And
yeah.
that one actually, apparently, producer Charles Band held a contest to Empire Pictures to come up with the craziest title. And it was originally Bitchin' Sorority Babes in the Slime Ball Bolorama, but the distributors wouldn't let him keep the bitchin'. So,
Okay. All right.
Yes.
but that's
We-
a fun
It's
one.
ahead of its time.
Yes.
Yeah, we have delicate sensibilities to protect.
Sure.
Yes. And one more I got through out there is a kind of crazed horror film from 1974, Barn of the Naked Dead.
Barn.
Barn of the
barn.
Naked Dead with Andrew Prine, who kidnaps women and forces them to perform circus tricks. And that's kind of the movie. And there's also like
I want to be his friend.
it's like near a nuclear testing area. So also he's got a dad who's running around who's a mutant killing people. It's amazing.
Great. All right.
All right. Well,
Okay.
speaking of amazing, well, I'm not really sure this is that amazing, but from 1945, I love a good gorilla film. And what could be better than White Pongo?
White Pongo.
White Pongo, not the Ace Fix, it's White Pongo. and of course,
Fix.
what could White Pongo be? Well, of course, if you were thinking a white gorilla, you are absolutely right. But it's a terrorizing, it's not King Kong size.
Is it like a Yeti?
No, it's a
white gorilla.
It's a white gorilla that wreaks havoc in the jungle, and actually there's a battle between, which is really weird. You know, the white ape and the dark ape, and it's but
Is there a white and dark ape like the aliens in Star Trek?
no, but it's from 1945, and it's a bit ridiculous. I just like the title, White Pongo.
Yeah, I like
It's,
that. It's catchy.
Yeah, and then another one. This is a film I've only seen bits and pieces of, but it's an animated cartoon actually from Cuban. It's called Vampires in Havana, and it's
But there's so much sun.
well, and not only, but it's an adult cartoon. It's in a way not so much like Felix the Cat, but it does have like some nudity and animated.
So more like Fritz
sexuality.
the Cat.
What did I say?
Felix the Cat.
Oh my God! Yes, Sean. Oh, Demon Booze.
I thought you were serious. When you said Felix the Cat.
No. Like
Okay.
Fritz
Fritz
the
the
cat.
cat.
Yes,
Yeah,
like Fritz
second
the cat. The Ace Fix.
Or
Zots.
the Ass Fritz.
You know, why don't I just stop right now?
Ace Fix.
Why don't I just stop, James? Your
All right,
corner.
James.
Okay, I got 2 different roulette wheels, and I don't want you guys to get pissed off at me again, so I'm gonna let you choose.
Okay.
Sequel
So now it's our fault.
Right.
sequel titles or porn titles? Because there's some pretty
No
clever porn
sequel.
titles.
No sequel tiles.
Everybody agree?
Sure.
I guess.
Okay.
Sure.
Get on with it.
Oh. Well,
Why are you reading your notes? Why are you reading your notes in
Thanks
your
for being
lap?
so prepared.
What are you doing?
Put your mouth to the mic and raise your
Raise
fist
your
so you can
notes.
talk
What are
into
you
the mic.
doing?
I can't even
Yeah,
see
that's
these
it.
notes.
No.
I'm done. I'm not going to be saying anything else.
Okay, go.
The Last Exorcism, Part 2.
That's good.
That's good.
Final Destination, Part 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Sure.
That's good.
Final? And then how about Son of Blob, which was also called Beware the Blob, which
Right.
is a natural title.
Right, right.
Son of Blob, for some reason, it was named either originally or was renamed Son of Blob. Makes absolutely no sense.
No, it's not the
Now-
son.
Yeah, how can it's the thing?
Right.
It's a blob. How can
Right.
it have a son?
Or son of the blob, even not the son of blob.
Right, just son
It just
of blob.
sounds so
Yes.
weird.
Some more blob.
Although, I mean, we have mentioned the movie before. It's from 1972, directed by Larry Hagman. Amazing cast of all these TV people in
Yes.
it.
I love
Horrible movie.
it. I love it. I love it. though.
love it.
Get out.
No, it's
I do-
awful.
I
it's
totally
awful,
enjoy it.
but I totally enjoy it. too.
Okay. All right. How about an Italian film called When Women Had Tails?
Oh my God.
It's a caveman sex comedy
Yeah.
thing.
I think there was a
Morricone
sequel
did
to
Not
it.
one woman on that production team, I'm sure.
No. And I think it was followed up by a sequel that is
When
called
women had asphyx.
When Women Lost Their Tails. Oh. See what they did? Oh, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
These are ones that just made me want to see the movies. The Toolbox Murders.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
you never
no,
seen
I
that?
know that one.
Yeah, what's in the
yes.
toolbox?
Yep.
Yeah.
What are we going to use? We're
Right.
going to use the tape measure.
That's true.
What could be used to kill?
Is that the one with Jackie Mason?
This one.
No, Wesley.
no.
Wesley from Land of the Lost is in it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
3 on a meat hook.
Oh, yeah, that's a great
Gee,
title.
How can you
what's
fit-
that about?
And how do you fit 3 on a meat hook?
Yeah, that's true. Is it one meat hook?
Yeah,
Right.
it must be one hell of a meat hook.
Well, that answers that unanswered question from the first film.
2 on a meat hook.
Yeah.
The Terror Knots.
Oh, I love. That's a great one.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
not
that.
a great one, but it's
Oh, but the title's fantastic.
the title is fantastic, and it's a space thing with
cheesy effects.
cheesy effects, and go look it up. But this is a favorite of Sean and mine's. Zombies on Broadway.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
that's a fun one.
And they aren't really on Broadway. Well, I guess they're.
No, at the end they are. Yeah.
Yeah. And they start off being off Broadway. I think they work their way up. You know, you gotta test.
You gotta pay your dead
Yeah,
dues.
yeah. You gotta showcase this thing and do bus and truck. The Nude Bomb, the Maxwell Smart movie.
Yeah,
I
that.
remember that.
Yeah.
One
Where
of
is
the
it?
worst
He drives a
titles.
desk.
Talk
Sure,
about-
yeah,
The
yeah,
only
yeah.
good moment in that whole movie.
Hey, how about Look What's Happened to Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah.
And it's not that interesting, just to let you know. And I'll just close it up here with Kiss the Girls and Make Them Die.
Oh.
Nice.
Well, these have been some very strange and unusual titles.
Indeed.
Indeed.
And Chris,
Thank you
bless
so
you.
much, man,
For
for
my
being with
pleasure.
us.
putting aside the time for our full-length party.
But
Always a great time.
you brought some great, strange, and
Yes, you
unusual
did.
titles.
Yeah, you classed up our show.
I did my prep. I did my work.
Yeah.
I never want to come into a podcast unprepared.
No, you're a good man.
Now, is there anything you're working on, or
You got a million things you're working
There
on, right?
is. One thing I wanted to mention is for the horror fans, I have a horror podcast that's kind of a Twilight Zone, weird, creepy stories called Conversations from the Abyss. It's 2 seasons of little 15-minute short stories featuring people from Welcome to Night Vale, Thrilling Adventure Hour, and Stan versus Evil. Stan against
Fantastic.
Evil.
So it's like a scripted.
Scripted, yeah. It's
That's
like
cool.
little like Twilight Zone type stories, but they're only like 15 minutes long.
That's awesome.
Fantastic, yeah.
So you can check that out on iTunes or wherever. And the one thing I want to mention is I had a great time at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I had a great signing down there. I have a comic book out from Starburns Press called Long Ago and Far Away. You can get it on Comixology. It's 8 issues. It's only $1.99 each. So you can try the first one, see how you like it. And it is a Narnia-type story. as we know, with the Narnia stories, a kid goes into a fantasy land, fights the evil witch, saves the land, and then comes back. But this story is about what happens to that kid when he's 30, he's an adult, runs a comic book store, he's a jerk, and he has to go back into that world again as an adult.
No.
That's a good idea.
So, and that's the story. Long ago and far away. It's on Comixology from Starburns Press right now. They're the Rick and Morty people. They picked it up.
Oh, nice.
That's great.
Nice.
And it's really a lot of fun. I mean, one of the things I really enjoy about the book is all the little nerd Easter eggs that you put all the way through.
Oh,
a lot
cool.
of great references. And I also like what happens to Lewis Carroll.
Yes.
Because that would be me in the book, between you and me. Read the comic and find out what we're talking about.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome.
All right. I think that's it. We have done our job. We've accepted the mission that we were given.
Right.
And we kicked its ass.
Yeah.
Or asphyx.
Or asphyx.
Yep.
All right. Well,
Always a great time. Thanks again for having me, guys. And I love having it as like a whole evening. It's a party.
It is a
Let's
party.
toast to Chris Mancini.
Yes.
to Chris Mancini.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Time for a listener shout out.
Shut up.
Matt and I once again had the pleasure of attending G-Fest in Chicago.
Oh, yes, we
G-Fest in
did.
Chicago.
Yes, we did.
Which is the Godzilla?
Godzilla convention.
and Kaiju
Kaiju.
convention.
Kaiju Tokusatsu
Yeah.
in Chicago,
Where
the Crown
we-
Plaza.
It was wonderful to meet up with so many friends and listeners. Among them, Angela McNichols and her fiance, Rob.
We love you,
Yeah.
Angela.
Congratulations, guys.
Yeah, congratulations.
The father-son cosplay team of Matt Takota and Sig.
Oh,
Great to see you guys.
great stuff.
Ryan Leisher.
Cool.
Yeah.
Charlie Emery of Spooky Pinball and his son, Bug,
Nice.
who happens to host the Spooky Pinball podcast.
Cool.
I think we were on it.
Yeah.
You guys were on
Yeah.
the Spooky Pinball podcast?
Yes.
From G-Fest?
We were hanging out in the patio,
Yeah.
and they were recording us.
You were drunk, James. You remember.
I was drunk, yeah. I was drunk.
Oh, look at that. Wow. It is a monster party.
I'll have to check that out.
We were good.
Mike McCants.
Mike McCants.
Michael.
Sean Hoffman from Swirsky Sports Talk Podcast. We got to hang out with Sean and meet his family. That was awesome.
Great guy.
Thomas Fitch. Brian Clark of the Cinemasochist Apocalypse blog. Great to see Brian again.
Both amazing guys.
Kent Nessa from the Daikaiju Cast Network. Adam Karsten, who was a recent listener who we met. Victor Velasquez, who brought along our Alligator People Blu-ray for us to autograph.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And also Ryan.
You guys got to sign that, by the way.
Cool. All right.
And,
Gonna cost a few bucks.
Shut up.
and finally, Ryan Davis from Lee, Massachusetts, who I don't think has ever had a shout out before. We got to meet Ryan for the first time. Ryan also
Cool.
brought the Alligator People Blu-ray for us to autograph, which
Awesome.
is very, very flattering. Ryan,
Yeah, it's always flattering when people bring that thing up.
wonderful to meet all of our friends and listeners at G-Fest. Hope to see you again next year. And Matt, you have one more?
Well, first I'd like to add Butch Portillo to the shout-outs and Andrew Orlana. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. And he does these amazing necklaces. The actual piece is the flower from Biolante. So it's this flower with like a bunch of these fangs in the middle.
And that's like right in the middle of the poster from that movie.
Exactly. Yes.
right.
And it's really great. And he does them in different styles. And the one that I got is very special because it glows in the dark, and it glows really brightly.
Is it radioactive?
I should hope so. No wonder I feel so good. But he's great, and he was there with his dad, and
Really nice
they're just really great guys.
Yeah.
And if you want to purchase one of these necklaces, and we'll put a picture up for you, but you can find him on Instagram at _monster_0_. And monster is with a capital M, if that matters. I'm Grandpa Weinhold, so I don't know how these things necessarily work.
And is that 0 spelled out or the number 0?
It looks... Oh, I'm sorry. Very good, Sean. It is a 0. It is not the word 0.
Okay.
The
It is a
number 0?
So let's just make this even longer.
It's not,
_monster with a capital M _ the number 0 _.
Got it.
Okay?
All right.
I'm going to bed.
Now, unlike last year, this year we didn't do any recording because we were just having too much of a good time.
We were in
and
the
really
moment.
enjoying ourselves, and it was. I gotta say, it was magical. It was a 72-hour fangasm. I mean,
Fangasm. I like
loved
that.
every freaking second.
I did
of it.
too. Yeah.
It was wonderful. We got to meet Akira Takarada again.
Cool.
That was incredible because, first of all, now we're having some cocktails with Ryan Leisher. And we're sitting around, and there is Akira Takarada just hanging out in the lobby.
Yeah.
And he's taking pictures with people. And we were told, don't approach him.
And it's like midnight at this point.
Yeah, no, it's late at night.
And for listeners who don't know, Akira Takarada is
a famous kaiju movie, Godzilla movie actor, but he was in a lot of other Toho films.
He was a dashing leading man. He was the young boyfriend in the first Godzilla in 1954.
That's right,
Been in
yes.
several Godzilla movies since then, notably Monster Zero and several others.
And he is terrific. He is just a
wonderful, yeah.
great guy. And so he was walking around the bar, and he walks by us, and I said, Takarada-san! And he turned around, and he came over to us and shook our hands, and then he toasted us.
Yeah.
he toasted
He
you.
toasted us.
Kampai.
Did he say, "Where's Larry?" Sean.
Maybe he said that in Japanese. I didn't understand it. So then the next day, we're getting autographs. And we asked his people, could you please, ask him if he would do a shout out for us and just say, I love Monster Party. Didn't want to give him too much heavy lifting.
On video.
Yeah, on video. So everybody okays it. He has his lines. His assistant writes it down. He's practicing it.
He's practicing.
It's so great. It's so beautiful. And he's doing this thing like he's going to turn around and give us the line.
Yeah.
He was great. And then he does it, and it's perfect. It's magic.
Oh, yeah.
So then afterward, I'm talking to him about the fact that my brother-in-law lives in Japan. And he's like, oh, really? Wow. Because I said, arigato gozaimasu. And he's like, oh, you've been to Japan? I said, yeah, my brother-in-law lives in Japan. And he goes, oh, what prefecture? And I said, Kyushu. And he's like, oh. And so he reaches in his pocket, and he gives James and I his card.
No way.
Awesome.
With his phone number, address.
No.
We get his card, his business card, which to me was like the ultimate collectible of that entire convention.
Yeah, really.
It was so great. And then he asked us for our card.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's
and so
cool.
he took our flyer, and he was just so gracious and charming and lovely.
Wow.
And I know that he was having some health problems, but he seems to be so much better. He seems to be just spry and
Some
happy.
people were saying that this might be the last one he can attend, but he was saying he's going to come back in a few years, and let's hope so.
I think he might, because
cool.
he was a ball of energy. He was really into it.
And just to have so many people, and it was crowded. It was the biggest attended show they said that they've ever had. Families, kids, just everybody who's so into the same thing and celebrating it, and honestly really high from it. I
Yeah.
mean, it was wonderful.
A lot of hot moms too, I noticed.
True, yeah.
Yeah, which is always a plus.
But there was also a lot of chatter about the recent Godzilla movie, King of the Monsters.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
sort of the topic.
Naturally.
All right.
Most of the attendees were enthusiastically pro when it came to
Right.
their
Okay.
appreciation of the film.
All right.
I didn't really hear a lot of dissent. I didn't hear a lot of dissent in general, although I know it's been kind of polarized.
Well, I know that Shin Godzilla was. I mean, it's interesting because I've talked to Godzilla fans about Shin Godzilla, and Matt and I we loved
It's
it.
genius.
And I know that there's some people
Yeah, me too.
who were not fans of it because they didn't like all the red tape and also whether it's the look of the monster.
I watched it recently again, though.
Yeah.
It moves actually to me. Like
I agree.
It's breakneck actually.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
yeah, there's talk, but it's paced well. Actually,
Yes.
it's
The
it's really good.
discussion matches the action.
Yeah.
It never goes on for too long. It goes back
No.
and forth.
No.
And it's something new and
Yeah.
original.
Right.
Well-
and why wouldn't you, even if you like the kind of Godzilla movies that you've gotten in the past, wouldn't you appreciate the fact that they tried to do something different?
Very different.
I
Yeah.
totally appreciate it. And we've talked about this. I totally appreciate it. I'm a tough time embracing it. And
But-
I'm not really sure why that is. Hey, if you're going to put me on a desert island with that or Megalon, I'd pick Shin Godzilla. No doubt about it. Okay.
Okay.
But
Fair enough.
I still, for some reason, it leaves me a little bit cold, and I need to revisit it and warm up to it.
Well,
A little over your head.
Well, I will say this: after Shin Godzilla, a lot of people were very anxious about the next American Godzilla film because the big criticism has always been, "Gee, don't tease me with the monster. I mean, I want to see monster action. I want to see the big fight."
with the 2014 Gareth Edwards version. That's what that was to me. That was a 2-hour cock tease for like no monsters.
Right.
So
Well said.
You
Well
knew that if you even did something like that, it's going to be a bomb. You have to fill this with all kinds of monster action.
Right.
And they did do that.
Yes,
They did do that.
I
King of
agree.
Monsters has monsters from the very beginning to the very end.
And great updated versions of the classic Toho monsters. I actually
With the
like-
exception of, I would say,
yeah.
Mothra.
Mothra.
Mothra's probably the most different of them.
But you didn't like
more,
it?
It's more like an insect, more like Batra in a way.
Compared to other Mothras, I didn't like this one as much. Not that I didn't like it, though.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I'm going to go out on a limb here. All of the monsters. I mean, I still love the classic looks of the monsters, but this updated version, I liked how Rodan was a badass bird.
Rodan, I thought, looked a lot like the original Rodan.
Yes, yes.
Because that's why I always was disappointed about in the other Showa films is after the original Rodan, they made him look goofy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, in all the other Showa films, he never looked. The original Rodan look was great, and this looked very much like that, I thought, in the new film.
Well, the Rodan, and I loved Battle Mothra. I just thought he was badass. And
I like the larva.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
larva.
larva was
and,
cool.
And I'll just throw out something else that I liked. I liked because when you look at Ghidra in the past, to me, Ghidra's heads, the way they're moving around, and I don't get me wrong, I love Ghidra, but to me, it's always it's like of one mind. In this film, it's like the heads are all different.
I love that.
Yeah.
And the two get mad at the one head, or they're angry.
No,
and,
that's great.
And
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, that's
it
brilliant.
was kind of like it was very very close still to the original Ghidra, but also had that kind of little bit of Game of Thrones dragon look too.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is great.
It didn't
which is, I thought,
bother
was
me.
No,
fun.
I liked all the monsters.
Yeah, and Godzilla kicked ass.
Godzilla kicked ass. There was also moments in that film where he looks cute, but in a good way.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
in a goofy way.
Right.
There's the scene where he's in his temple,
Oh yeah, right.
and there's a situation going on. Once again, I'm trying not to be a spoiler.
Right.
But there's a moment where someone is walking by him and he's asleep, and you see just this eye open up. And he reminded me of my cat sleeping. I was like, aw.
But Godzilla has a lot of action in it. There's some other kind of bizarre kaiju in it too. Which
Yeah,
is
I liked
it
all
kinda-
of them, too.
Yeah, it kind of sets up the universe, this
Yeah.
monster verse. It blatantly references King Kong, which is
Great.
nice because
Yeah.
we know that we're gonna have a King Kong versus Godzilla. On a monster level, it's satisfied. On the human characters.
Now we get to the other side
bad
of the
news.
Well,
Yeah.
but I still think compared to the Gareth Edwards Godzilla,
I agree.
They did a better job with,
Yes,
with the
yes, they
human
did. I didn't care
characters.
about
I don't know.
anybody in that
I don't
first
know
one.
if they could have done a worse job.
That's true.
That's true.
But for me, the main problem, and I mean, again, I guess I don't want to give away too much, but there were certain character motivations which I thought were a little muddy, kind of
Yes.
strange the way they did it.
There's a lot of bizarre child endangerment that doesn't make any sense.
There is,
in my opinion.
There's a major human character that does something so crazily irresponsible and tries to justify it, and there's no way anyone with any frame of logic can agree with her justification. It actually leads to one of the best comeback lines of the movie. I don't know if you remember it. I won't spoil it, but that might not have bothered it for a lot of viewers, and apparently it didn't. It bothered it for me. I had a real problem getting over that stuff. Again, it's the Monarch stuff. It's everything that Monarch is doing. Charles Dance leads this kind of terrorist group that wants to take over, like undermine what Monarch is doing. I think if they had been allowed to do that without the other character and her motivations, that would have been more successful. Honestly, that threw it out the window for me. And in the last 45 minutes, despite how great the monster action was, I was checking my watch. I was ready to leave the theater because I was that disappointed.
Okay.
I couldn't get over that. And there's also some logic problems that I have.
Oh, there's a lot of logic problems.
Yeah.
Huge ones.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to evacuate. Okay, Washington, D.C., Boston. These are huge cities. You don't have any shots of people evacuate. At least there was that one city in Mexico that Rodan was flying over that you see them running and the
Yes.
gale force winds are blowing. That was cool. But then you've got all these other cities. You don't see any of that there. Mothra, I thought, was completely wasted. When Mothra cocoons herself in Tokyo Tower in the very first movie, I mean, all that is done with such beauty and majesty. What does she cocoon herself in here, in a waterfall? And then when the wings open, the wings are basically trimmed in half in the design. And then you barely ever see Mothra after that. A lot of fans have complained about the sound effects, that Ghidra is not making its classic noise.
Yeah.
There might have been some reason for that. I don't know if it was legal or editorial.
Well, even in the Toho, when they brought back Ghidra in the '90s Toho films, they didn't bring that back, which I was surprised. I do miss that.
Me too.
But I thought Ghidra was fantastic though.
Yes,
and
I
I
agree.
thought the fights are really good and unique.
Maybe my expectations were lower than yours. I was fortunate. A friend of mine took me and my daughter to see it at the Grauman's Chinese. It's not Grauman's Chinese Theater now, but it's the classic theater in Hollywood where they have all the footprint stuff, and it's made it into an IMAX theater, and it was just so glorious to see the monsters so big, and we had so much fun. The weird thing is, for me, again, maybe my expectations were low. The human element, it didn't matter that much to me. I was just so happy to see this giant monster fight throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, my wife and I saw in this thing called D-Box, where it's basically the modern day equivalent of Sensurround, where all the seats are computerized to what's happening on the screen, so they rumble and shift. We had it turned up all the way.
Oh, that's cool.
that's
It was
fun.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, I've said myself that it's hard for me to accept a non-Japanese Godzilla film, and I had to ask myself seriously, if this movie were made in Japan, I'd probably think it's like the greatest kaiju movie ever made. But the fact that it's American, and I'm a little bit, cynical, very, very cynical about Hollywood product, and frankly, I think I could have written a better script myself. But that's me. I'm not a hater, but I wish I could have enjoyed it as much as I wanted
But
to.
also, James, don't you look at even the classic Showa Godzilla films? They're not exactly monuments of good script writing.
Oh, no, they're
I mean,
not.
it's
They're
like
not.
There's lots of logic holes and lots of threadbare characters. I mean, you're seeing those movies for the monsters. It's
Yeah,
like-
but I enjoy them on a level that it has to do with a set expectation of how those movies operate, and it's different than my expectation of how Hollywood movies operate. I expect a little bit more from them. That's all.
Well, I would like to say that I think that the difference between watching those movies in the 60s is that it was a different tone of film. It was a different time. Most of these films were aimed at children.
Yeah,
And
they
when
weren't-
we saw them, we were much younger.
they weren't
Yeah.
like tentpole giant studio epics made.
Right. This
to-
thing, I expect a little bit more because it's presented like it's going to be better. And
Right.
whether it's a kid's film or not, I still think you can make a good script. And the basic story of it, I did not have a problem with.
Yeah, neither did I.
How the plot points were executed and the character stuff, that's where I really had trouble. The characters, I thought, for the most part, were a big yawn. Or they didn't make any sense at all.
If you've got, a bit of a spoiler here, but if you've got a mother in a family who's supposedly socially conscious and aware, and she's unleashing King Ghidorah on the world, where there's going to be mass carnage in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and ends up risking the life of her own family and daughter. It's like, what the fuck are you thinking? And how do
Well-
you expect me to be invested
Well-
in this plot that stretches logic to that degree? I could not buy it.
But, I mean, let's say you're involved in some sort of religious cult where that you think by bringing on the end of the world is going to save the world.
Yeah, it's basically like a Thanos kind of
Right, yes,
approach.
yeah. No,
And
that's a very good
That's how I thought of this
comparison.
character. But again, and I'm trying not to spoil it too much, but if that came up as a twist later that this person was behind all this and that,
It would have worked better.
oh my gosh, no, you were with all this all along. That's terrible. That I thought would have worked better as opposed to the way they did it was like trying to have it both ways.
Yeah.
And it didn't
yeah.
really work.
And then dialogue is
Yes.
just god awful.
There were some of the attempts at the funny witticisms, like the
Awful.
remarks Pretty bad.
Pretty bad. And also, even the moments where they were trying to be serious and heartfelt felt phony to me because the whole thing felt phony to me.
Right.
Now, I still enjoyed it.
But yes,
I
yeah,
still enjoyed all the monster stuff.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of put aside all of that because I was having so much fun with the monsters. But even the monster stuff, one thing I have to point out is that now everybody is doing this whole muddy background where everything is done in a haze.
Or in the rain.
In the rain.
Or at dusk or at
or
night.
dust or whatever. Or there's, all this debris in the air.
Right.
And I'm getting really tired of that. I would like to see what I'm looking at.
I think it has to do a lot with today's CGI technology. I think it's easier to make these kind of chaotic action sequences in that kind of setting as opposed to like a sunny daylit,
How
battle.
about splitting the difference? Though?
Yeah.
How about
Have
making
a few
it
scenes in daylight?
Yeah, it doesn't have to all be
Right.
that, and it can be daylight with clouds or
Right.
whatever. I just need a little more light,
The gold-
and I want to see the detail.
We were talking
Right.
about G-Fest. Susuke Kaneko, who had done the Gamera trilogy from the 90s, and GMK. I mean, those movies are like the gold standard of what a kaiju movie could be. And many
agree.
of his scenes, most of his scenes, the majority are in broad daylight.
That's true.
And they're very, very effective.
Right. Right.
And that was years ago.
Yeah.
So,
And those were suits,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, that too. Right.
and it really works. And so I just think it depends on the filmmaker.
Yeah.
Shin Godzilla
Yeah.
had a lot of daylight
Mostly
stuff.
daylight.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And that was CGI.
that
Yeah,
was great.
that was excellent
I didn't
CGI.
have a problem with any of that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would say, okay, maybe in the very beginning with the earlier phases of Godzilla where he's more fish-like, I could kind of see the edges of the CGI, but I
little
didn't
bit,
but
but-
I didn't mind it because I knew where it was going.
Right. Right.
And by the time you reached the final form, it was great.
yeah.
And I just don't know why. It'd be nice to see maybe a Japanese American production where, you get the best of both worlds so they could pull something off like what we're talking about. But I have to say this about the movie, and that is I am in no hurry to see it again.
Really, I actually want to see it again for the monster stuff. I want to see the
Yeah, I'm actually with
battles
Sean. I wouldn't mind seeing it
I'm in
again.
no hurry. I felt like I got it, and it was okay.
That's
and it
how I
was
felt
fun.
about the 2014 one, but this one, I want to see that
one,
monster
yeah,
action.
Yeah. And here's another thing I'd like to point out. We're talking about logic flaws, and that is that everybody in that movie is getting cancer. Everybody.
Yeah.
That's how it was in the Gareth Edwards one too. Everybody's walking around with radiation pouring out everywhere.
And I love that it's like, that person's now, they're dead because they got an overabundance of radiation. Like,
Yeah.
no, everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
Everybody. And did you also notice too, I think this is ridiculous. There were so many moments where someone was hanging out on the edge of a hole and then the monster comes up and now they're all running. And it's like, the minute there's monsters happening, you're running. You're not at the edge of anything. I am running the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, too, that GMK and Shin Godzilla had, was the minute you tackle little details like that, where it makes it feel real, this is how a person would react to this situation. It adds to the drama, and it certainly connects me more than this one did. This one, even with all the cool monster stuff, it was like two movies. It's like this crappy one, and then this other one, which is this CGI, really nice cartoon of monsters fighting. And that's not really a movie.
Right. I don't know. Maybe if I see it again, I'll try to see it dubbed in Japanese. Maybe it'll make a difference.
If I see it in the seats that vibrate, I'm sure I'll love it.
I'm just glad there's
The Graduate would be great.
Yeah, I'm just glad
Elaine!
I'm just glad there's a major American release of a Godzilla film with tons of kaijus in it.
And you know that
and the
there's
fact that they're going to be doing a series of films,
yeah.
that's okay with me.
I'm happy that they're keeping Godzilla alive.
Yeah.
So even if
And
they
the-
stumble all over the place, at least the franchise keeps going.
Yeah, and plus I think Toho's going to keep making them two of their own, right?
I mean,
So-
let's face it. Godzilla first appeared in 1954. Here we are, guys, over 60 years later, and this monster is still with us.
As is King Kong. I actually have to say, I think that Kong Skull Island, in a film in and of itself, is more successful, and I enjoyed it more. But then again,
I enjoyed that too. I mean, I don't know. I kind of
I enjoyed that, but there was a lot of that. There was a lot of the forced comedy that I didn't enjoy either. And there's a bunch of logic stuff in there that
But the monster
kind of
stuff
loses
in
me.
that was
But the
great.
monster stuff was good.
Yeah.
But I have to be fair. I don't want to see that one again anytime soon either.
I don't mind it. I don't mind it.
I don't mind it, but it's not something that sticks with me. It's like, oh man, where I've seen Shin Godzilla maybe 12 times.
Yeah.
Right.
How many times have you seen that, James? Do you keep going back to kind of get yourself in a place where you feel better about it, or
I've seen it twice. And
Twice, okay.
I
Three
plan to see it
times,
again.
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
All
there,
right, well,
there you have it.
There you have
Yeah.
it. There you have it. Anyway, let's remind our listeners that you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV, our Twitter handle at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. If you're listening to us on iTunes or whatever the current incarnation of iTunes is these days, please take a moment and write a review. We'd love to hear from you. Chances are we will read your review on the air. Our aforementioned Blu-ray commentary of Alligator People on Scream Factory and also Vengeance of She on Scream Factory are both available. You can order them on Amazon or wherever fine Blu-rays are sold.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Watch films with incredibly strange titles. And if someone tries to stop you, kick them in their ass fix. But just remember to hug the mic, that's all.
Yeah,
Because
You got
this is
it.
a podcast where we have to kind of speak into the mic.
you've done
Yes.
podcasts.
Have you ever been on a podcast before?
He was on our-
I've heard a couple of.
He was on our
rumors of,
podcast.
podcasts. Yeah.
He started Podfest.
Yeah.
Larry, did you know that?
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Nice. You know what you do? You just did that thing that I always love in movies. It's the suspicious, not suspicious. You know, you're a spy, and then the camera lands on the spy guy, and the spy guy's like, maybe you should not look suspicious.
Yeah.
Or maybe you shouldn't be a spy.
Yeah, you're a bad spy. You're a really horrible
Past
spy.
school.
Bad spy school. Oh, let's pitch it
Yeah.
with Steve Carell.
Yes. You do it.
He's the next Mr. Bean.
No, I somehow think not, actually. All right, guys.
Drew Carey?
No, there's room enough in this world for just one
Yeah,
Mr. Bean.
I think so too.
When he's done, it's done.
Yeah.
Okay? All right, ready to do this,
There's
guys?
only one Mo Howard. No one replaced Mo Howard.
No, there's
yeah.
no second Mo. One that we're
Like
Our
I'm
topic?
yes. What?
that was just a flub. That wasn't just
Okay, sorry.
okay. So I guess we're on that note?
Yeah.
And we have to do an asterisk joke at the end.
Sure, of course. So what is that? Keep America strong. Watch a movie with an incredibly strange title.
Watch out for your asphyx. Keep your asphyx clean.
Or I should say, watch out for your ace fix, and you go ass fix.
Yeah, or something like that.
No.
We've done that enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the
Okay,
idea.
look, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'll do.
No, you
whatever
do know what you're
Okay,
talking
no,
about,
no.
and we might end up coming
I'm not
back to
far.
that. But maybe if is there a new thing like,
Watch out for your.
or how about something like, and if someone tries to stop you from watching a film with an incredibly strange title, kick them in their ass fix.
There you go. Yeah. There, perfect.
That made me laugh.
All right. Okay. See, there you go.
There you go.
Have your energy for the Keep America Strong.
All right.
All right, Sean.
All right.
What up? You're always telling me more energy.
More energy. Come on. Yeah.
I am. That's true.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Ready? Mm-hmm. Oh no! Where'd he go?
I'm
We
here.
lost him.
I'm here. No, I'm here.
All right,
I'm
okay.
here. Let's do this.
Okay. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Okay. No. I'm having a problem with the link. So keep America strong.
Watch.
Oh, so this would be it. Watch films with incredibly strange titles. And if someone tries to stop you.
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Can we do the lead up again? Just because it helps me.
Do you want someone else to say watch films with incredibly strange titles?
I don't need to. I just got to know what I'm saying.
You
that's
can
all.
say it. You can say it.
Okay.
Did you want to say it?
No.
If you wanted to.
Only if you wanted to mix it up. I don't care.
I don't care.
But you will have just said.
I'm
No.
James Gonis.
Yeah,
Okay, no, you say it all. You say it
But if you want to,
I don't care.
I'm open.
No.
Anytime you want to speak,
45
James.
minutes later.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
you
all right.
go for it.
Okay, right. On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Strothe.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong.
Watch films with incredibly. It was incredibly. I'll just do it from there.
Yeah.
Watch films with incredibly strange titles. And if someone tries to stop you, kick them in their ass fix.
Perfect.
That's perfect. Yay.
And you might make it home by midnight.